until they wear out.
Yeah.
I got a little too much flavoring in that baby.
Goodness.
Get up.
Well, you might say that too soon.
We'll be the judge of that.
Right now, I'm not.
Yeah.
Stranger things have happened.
You're sure you have.
You'll be able to. Okay? If I'm leaving because I'm mad or if I look at my phone, and I'll still look mad, but I'll look at my phone first.
It'll be a different man.
Yeah.
Oh, Green Bay.
Mayor. Val's not here tonight because she's not feeling well, and Chief Lichty's not here because a kid at a sports banquet, so he's there instead.
Okay.
So we're missing 2 department heads.
Ron West, young man. See now, Jerry, this is what happened when the mayor says something that's bad. We always back up.
Oh, okay. You guys got that? That's what we have to do.
We're waiting for you guys to follow suit.
Hey, grab a chair.
You know, you guys can sit there. I'll just move
Sure.
back.
I don't want you to sit taller than
Okay, we'll call to order the regular Tracy City Council meeting for Monday, November 22nd. Shoot. Well, we will, but I'm just not quite ready yet.
Scoop yourself up.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have special guests tonight?
We do, Mayor. We have a item to add to the agenda. Actually, I got a call from Larry Minshew earlier today. The Lions have agreed to donate a little over $5,000 to the Central Park shelter that's happening it's being built right now, and that's kind of a fantastic community project because you've got the kids at the school building it. You've got the Lions donating some money for it. The city is kicking in some money for it. I mean, it's just really a great way to do a project, to involve everybody. And so we have that item added to the agenda. And even though it's a little out of order, maybe we should approve the agenda with that addition first before we have them do that, just for the order of the business, if that makes sense.
Okay, I have a couple more additions. Seth would like to add something to the agenda.
Sure.
Yeah, I would like to add update on the new Tracy Foundation.
Okay.
Is that under 8 or?
I thought we did, right under 8.
8.
That's okay with you guys?
Under 8.
And then it was brought to my attention by a council member that they wanted to do a closed meeting.
Okay, we have to say what it's about.
It's about your contract.
Okay?
So, and can we ask you now or ask you then? Well,
You can just put it on the
No,
agenda.
we'll put it on the agenda, but we'd like to have you like leave the room if we can.
That's up to you. I think I have the right to be there, actually, but that's okay.
Maybe we could discuss that, and whether we want to close the meeting or to have the discussion without Eric present, I guess.
We can do that during the closed meeting, right?
Sure.
Okay. So, those are the only additions? Okay, do we have an approval of the agenda with the additions?
Motion to approve is amended.
Second?
First and second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We want to have the Lions.
Now we can do the Lions check presentation.
Okay. She wants to pray for us.
Maybe Larry would have. Would you like to do the invocation, Larry?
The invocation? Well, I would kind of defer on that because
Okay.
Somebody from the Lions Club would do. Okay. You're waiting for an invocation?
Would you like to do it for
Sure.
us? Oh,
Can I
that'd
do
be
it right from here?
Right, no,
Sure
you gotta be
can.
at the
Please,
podium.
up to the
Thank
microphone.
you.
Let's close our eyes for a word of prayer. Dear God and gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be here, and we thank you for this group of people who manage our city, if that's the correct word to use, and we ask that you give them wisdom in all the decisions that they are to do. And we thank you for those here for other reasons, and may they have good reasons for that. And we just thank you so much for the group of the Lions Club and for what they can do and what they will do in this city. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tracy.
Yep. Where are you presenting?
Where would you like to do the presentation at?
doesn't make any difference.
Well, I'm like
Uh-huh.
your center spot.
I think we want to.
This is, if you don't know, this is Lion Tyson Vanderwilt and Lion Lois Vanderwilt. She is our secretary, and Lion Tyson is on the board of directors, and he's been in charge of, or not in charge, he and several others have been a key factor in getting the dinner and raffle that we have, or try and have every spring going, which is a tremendous job. But usually we have the proceeds earmarked somewhere. And this last year, we earmarked the proceeds to go to towards playground equipment for the Central Park. Well, the way things have worked out, and with the study and everything being in limbo, we decided that maybe we would change that. And so we talked with Mr. Hanson, and he mentioned the picnic shelter, or the park shelter, I shouldn't say picnic shelter, the park shelter there. So we decided we don't like to keep money just building in our fund. Once we earmark it, we like to get rid of it. So we would like to present the proceeds of the last dinner and raffle, which is a total of $5,057 towards the building materials for that new Central Park picnic shelter. So, Lion Tyson, I think you wanted to mention something?
Yes. I will stand up next to Larry here, my chief. When the senior center went away, that was where the Tracy Lions had their monthly meetings. That's where we had our meals, and that's where we had our soup supper. So it became very important for us to find a new home. Thankfully for the Edwards, they provided our meals on a monthly basis for our regular meetings, and we have now set the date for our next raffle, which is going to be April 9th of 2022. And we would like to raise that money, and we would like that to be a donation from what we raised to the new multiple center. So we have earmarked that for that, and hopefully we'll be back a year from now with a check for that. Okay? So thank you.
On behalf of the Tracy City Council and the City of Tracy, we all appreciate everything that the Lions do for the City of Tracy. And thank you for this. This is awesome. You guys
Come on up so
come on
they-
back on this
so
side. You
parents
guys
can get
come on up here.
everybody.
Come on, Lo.
We want to take a picture.
Oh, that's it. Okay. Yes, really.
I might say that Lions
Maybe just
got the help of everybody out there.
Yeah.
So, one of them should have been.
Yeah.
Forgot how tall I was.
I think everybody should try to get in.
That gets to be so many people.
Okay.
It's up to you, Per.
How about the two lions on one side and
Yeah.
Larry on, you stay there, Larry?
No.
You guys might want to walk this
Can you
way.
get around it?
Yeah, how about if I slide around? I bet you I can.
Yeah, he's slimmer than I am.
Here, I'll suck it in.
A little bit more.
That's better. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anybody here from the audience that would like to talk about something that is not on the agenda? Thank you.
That'll be you.
Guess that's where I come up, so. Are we on time, not, or what are we doing?
We're going.
Perfect. My name is Jeff Meyer. I'm one of the members on the Tracy Ambulance Board. I currently serve as a representative for Chetek Township. We have pieces of 7 townships. We don't really have like all of one township. We have pieces of 7 different ones. We cover approximately 192 square miles, other than in the city of Tracy. In our contract that we had put forward, I want to read off something to you here. We had put forward for a $30,000 for a 1-year contract, and then the idea was to go forward every year. The expiring contract that we had was in place from 2017 to 2021, and the city, because of things in the city was going on, they had allowed us to be paid $140,000 paid to the Tracy Ambulance for the 5 years. So that works out to be $28,000 per year from 2017 to 2021. So our proposed contract moving forward was for 2022 in the amount of $30,000 per year. And I appreciate it in here. It says here, okay, the Tracy Ambulance Services requested a contract, $30,000 based on the population, average calls, and market value in its primary service area, in our PSA area. Okay, the expiring contract is 5 years, $140,000. Prior years, we saw 1-year contracts. That was generally the way that it was moved forward. One of them was for $13,749 per year. 2013, 2015 was $14,000. And 2016 was $14,000. In 2017, it was a lump sum that was paid to them, which in the amount works out to be $28,000 a year. At that time when we did that, we appreciate very much from the city council and from past council that was there. I don't know if that was from the city, from the sale of the hospital, whatever. It doesn't matter. That's on your side of the equation where it comes from. We're on our side of the equation what we need per year to move forward. In our contracts moving forward here, we've got kind of I don't want to say an unworkable solution, but you guys had offered us $17,500 per year. This is my understanding from what was in the paper. I was not aware that you guys were doing that, so it was whatever. And our director, I apologize, but our director was not here tonight. I think Pam had offered for him to come here tonight. I believe a couple nights ago you talked with our director. Our director is Charlie DeShepper, has been for many, many years. Anyway, our moving forward on there, we're kind of at an unworkable solution there. That would be $12,500 per year less than what we're asking for. Now, I understand you guys got an idea here that, you know, that's why I just kind of wanted to read these off where we were at in the past going forward. I appreciate the offer of $17,500 per year, but that's kind of an unworkable solution for us. We are a private entity. I mean, I know you guys know that. I know there's a lot of other people in the community that don't realize that. I've been called by several, and they're like, why doesn't the city get some of this working forward here? The city, it's a private entity, Tracy Ambulance Services. It's not owned by the city. So I guess what we're asking is, and I realize that you guys had said $17,500 per year for 4 years. So I guess what we would like to do is sit down and meet with either a representative from the city council or something to get this moving forward. Because right now, currently, the ambulance service will not accept that, so, moving forward. I don't know how I am on time. I was allotted 3 minutes to talk, so, whatever.
You're out of time.
And I'm out of time. No, and I appreciate it very much. I know that you guys, well, there's a lot of stuff to cover in that amount of time, so, I appreciate it. If you guys got questions, I mean, feel free to ask. I've been the representative for 27 years. I've been on the township board for 34. And I've been the ambulance rep for 27. So, whatever. And I'm sure Charlie would be willing to sit down and talk with somebody, but he was not willing to come tonight in front of this board, so.
So is he willing to come and talk to us a different night? Was it too short of notice, or he's not willing to talk with us?
The best I can tell you right now is I can talk with him and see.
Okay.
He was more willing to represent with 1 or 2 representatives rather than the entire board. Nobody individual, he wasn't singling anybody out, just, that was our idea, I guess. He would, as a director of the ambulance, and 1 or 2 from on our board would meet with 1 or 2 representatives from your board. The more people you have, that's wonderful, but the more ideas you have. If you have 7 on your board, you're going to have 9 ideas. I mean, whatever. And same on our board, too.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
And don't take this the wrong way.
Oh, no,
because ambulance is great, but I was just wondering, so like back when you guys got 14,000, how did you make it then?
Partly that is that our reimbursement rate from like Medicare and Medicaid was a lot better. Our expenses have gone way up, and our reimbursement rate has gone way down on a percentage basis. I mean, if you want to look at it that way. When we go out there now, you might get a bill for $1,800. Medicare or Medicaid might pay us $460 to $520. It depends on what is all used, if they use oxygen or if they use anything else on the way out there, and what the person that's being transferred, if they're like a BLS, like a basic life support, or an ALS, like an advanced life support. So you get different reimbursement rates, and the percentage of reimbursement rates has gone down a lot, and especially has the last couple of years. Approximately 3 or 4 years ago, I'm sure Jerry knows this from the hospital too, I would assume, on certain things you can bill out, and you might be able to get that reimbursed a little bit through Medicare or Medicaid or through their insurance, and then you cannot bill that person privately to get any more out of them. Years ago, we used to be able to do that. If we got $500 or $520, we could bill them, and they might pay another $300 or $400, so you'd get $800 or $900 on that, $1,500 bill then. Where now we might get $400 or $500 on a $1,700 or $1,800 or $1,900 bill, and it's paid in full. We have no other way to get any reimbursement. We had gone up the last 2 years for the townships. All 7 of the townships went along with it on a per capita basis. Tracy decided not to. So whatever. I understand the dollars. I get it, but that's kind of where we're at. We were figuring that right about 29,000. If you figure it out per capita, or per 500 people or per 1,000 people, Tracy's got to be around that 29 something, a little over 29,000. So we were asking for $30,000 per year.
So when you bill out, but when they have like insurance and Medicare, then you can get the whole
Some,
right?
yeah, we get about 20% where we get the whole thing, if that's what you want to call it, the whole thing that was billed. We about 20%, roughly.
Oh, I suppose
Because insurance knocks it down, and they have a certain set amount. If you have, depending on how that is coded and how that is on the ambulance, they might give you, $20 instead of the $52 that was billed, or they might give you so much per mileage that's less than what you're billing out. So,
I don't have my papers with, because I didn't know we were going to be talking about this today, that we got 2 weeks ago with the numbers.
right, and I appreciate you guys talking about it. I get it. Because you guys have put together, my understanding is $17,500 per year for 4 years. And like I say, part of our board's trouble is, we don't know where we're gonna be in another year or two, so we kinda wanted to go a step at a time and do, you know, a year at a time, because unless we wanna do like a step contract.
Where the bugaboo
Yes,
is with you guys being a private entity, a private business.
I understand that. It's a unique situation.
It-
Most of them are, most of the ambulance services are owned by, you know, North or whoever. Some entity, some hospital owns them, or some other entity owns them and they come in. Tracy Ambulance Service is the only one in the state of Minnesota that's a privately held ALS-rated ambulance service.
No, there's other private ones.
No, not exactly in our situation, but, yep. They were incorporated in 1972, and they had the ambulances in this very room for many years. And part of that going back before like 2010 or 11, part of the city, they used to give that as far as the use of the facilities and a place to have the ambulance and a lot of other things. So when we had built the new ambulance garage out there, that's when it kind of changed, and the ambulance requested a amount or a dollar amount from the city since then, every year. So that's kind of where, and that's just going back to 2013, so. And we were a lot less for the townships at that point in time per section covered also. So that's why there's 13,000 then, you know, versus now, so. I don't know if that answers your questions, I guess, but
Yeah.
we didn't want to burn up a lot of your time tonight, but that's why we were interested if we could get another discussion going or something, so.
We'll have to find out like who and what and when.
That's fine.
And then,
Contact me or Charlie, either way. Whichever one you want.
what's your number, Jeff?
507-629-4095. And that'd be my shop phone. That's easiest to get a hold of me.
Charlie's.
Charlie? I don't know.
I
Charlie
know,
D.
because when you texted that message, it's like you didn't say his name. I had to like go back through my caller IDs. to
I
try to
don't have
figure
his
out
number
who.
right with me, so
Okay. Well, if I need to, I can. I'll
Yep.
just be-
Yep.
Okay.
So I mean, like I say, I appreciate it. I know on your guys' side of the equation is the dollars coming in. I understand that. You don't, and I've talked with a couple of people on here, and I appreciate that, talking with people on it, because we got to get something figured out on it. You know, if there's some kind of a way to do that, either a 1 year and then discuss it again next year, or if we can do it on a step thing over 2 or 3 years. I guess we, as a board, we're not for a 4-year contract every year the same, because we don't know what it's going to be the next year or two. I mean, the last year for COVID, we just got hammered on some of this stuff. The reimbursement rate was terrible.
I just don't know how much of that is our responsibility as a
Nope,
city versus you as a private business.
Yep, exactly. I get it. But I can tell you North would be a lot more.
Well, I'm not.
No, and I know you're not saying that, but I'm just saying,
You're saying that North would be a lot more, but what, do they build a city then? I
yes,
mean, I don't quite understand how this
No.
all works.
Don't they build a person?
they build a person, but they're gonna go through, Marshall gives them some dollars too.
Yeah, because they have an ambulance agreement that the ambulance is right
Yes.
there.
And the same as Marshall or Minneota or any other, Redwood Falls, any other one that they're in. Their city or their entity, municipality, whatever, they're putting together something on a per capita basis or a per person basis covered within the city limits of their city. And I don't know if you want to check on that for what it is or whatever, but I can tell you we're a bargain compared to that, but that's something you can find out, I guess, so.
Mayor, my suggestion
Okay.
is that you talk about this during
I-
mayor and council communications. If you want to appoint a couple of people to talk to them, I wouldn't do more than 2, otherwise that would trigger an open meeting. you know?
Exactly, right,
So, but you could certainly do that if you would like, you know, if you want to negotiate. That's totally up to the city.
I just currently, it puts us in a bad situation, and I say a bad situation because the ambulance currently comes whenever there's a fire call or whenever there's an accident or anything else, and a lot of those things don't get billed out, but they still cost us. You know, if we don't have any more dollars coming in from that, I know a lot of those things have to be cut. I mean, they just have to, because we can't afford to do it.
Okay. Okay, so we'll discuss that and we will,
Nope, that's fine, I appreciate your time very much, so,
thanks,
get
Jeff.
hold of me.
Thanks,
Thank you
Jack.
very much.
I just shared Charlie's number with you, Ben.
Oh, thank you.
Mayor, we're 5 minutes past our public hearing time,
Yep, sorry.
so we need to open that.
Okay, So we will open the public hearing. This public hearing has to do with Resolution 2021-108, approval of reassessment of 2 parcels for Phase 3A-1 infrastructure. You want to carry it away from here?
Yeah, these are just the 2 parcels that we previously discussed that should have been assessed last year, but we took them off the rolls at that particular time because we weren't sure about them. But we've been advised by the city attorney that we could assess these parcels. And so they're being assessed for $7,500 a piece, which is what everyone did last year at that time. I don't know if any of those people are here tonight or if we received any objections.
One of them has paid in full already.
And one of them is already paid in full, actually, at this point.
So is anybody from the audience about that particular? No? Okay, then we need a
We just got to close the public hearing and then do the resolution.
Okay, so we'll close the public hearing, and then we'll ask for somebody to do the resolution.
I make a motion that we approve Resolution 2021-108 to go ahead with the reassessment of these 2 parcels from Phase 3A1 project.
I'll second that.
First and second, any further discussion?
Where are these parcels located at, Eric?
They're on 2nd Street.
Second Street.
Main Street.
That's Third.
What are the addresses?
East.
They're right
Second Street
here.
is the one that goes.
236
This is
Emery
the-
and
here's on that
192
way.
Third.
It's 236 Emery Street and 192 3rd Street.
And the 192 Third Street is already paid.
The Emery one is the one we're discussing.
What's that?
The Emery one is what we're talking about.
I mean, ultimately, we have to assess both of them, even though they've already paid. You know, you have to take that action to legally make that happen.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Shantz.
Aye.
Tell.
Aye.
Teagues.
Aye.
Whitman.
Yes.
Landite.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Mayor Corman.
Aye. Moving on to the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve the council minutes from November 8th, the municipal accounts payable and payroll without breakthrough beverage, and then the municipal accounts receivable.
First and second, any discussion on that? Roll call, please.
Shantz.
Aye.
Teagues.
Aye.
Landite.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Tell.
Aye.
Whitman.
Yes.
Mayor Corman.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve municipal accounts payable for breakthrough beverage.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Tell.
Aye.
Landite.
Aye.
Whitman.
Yes.
Shantz.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Mayor Corman.
Aye. So Mayor, Council Communications, Seth, did you have something you wanted to share there?
Yes, I just wanted to state again that the Park Committee continues to seek comments from the public. We've talked to a few groups, we're talking to individuals on what people think would like to see done at Central Park as part of our long-range improvement plan. We're just kind of getting the wheels rolling on that process. And I just want to remind people that if they have an idea for Central Park or a specific suggestion, to contact one of the committee members, Connie Anderson, Melody Karen, Rhonda Fredericks, Marianne Ankrum, or myself. And then I also wanted to just relate how impressed I was Saturday at the Hmong New Year celebration out at the high school. There were several hundred people out there with festive costumes, and they had to cut the ribbon to mark the completion of harvest, and bid farewell to the old year and moved on to the new. And they especially commemorated the fact that it's been 30 years since the first Hmong families came to Tracy, and they've been a great addition to our community. Cool, you must have something else to say. And your wife was admirably one of the organizers, an MC.
It was a busy day, that's all I can say. It was a lot of fun. We wish that more community members would have been able to come out and join us, but we can definitely do a better job of advertising next year too. So, but
well done.
And the food was awesome.
Was.
Okay, our other mayor communication piece is whether we want to have a few people meet with the ambulance. What is people's opinion on that?
I guess, I don't know, I think it'd be a good idea, but I'm not sure how to go about that. Make that work, because even if, say, 2 people did meet with them and they come up with something, still has to come through here.
I mean, ultimately, council member, it's all part of the budget, and the budget will be adopted at the next meeting. And so if you wanted to if the council agreed to make changes, you would just do it basically along with the budget at that time, if that makes sense. And so I think that you have time, to do it between now and then, if you would like to.
I would like to be there, Jeff.
Like I say, whatever you guys, I don't mean to interrupt your meeting, but whatever you guys decide with that, that's fine. We're trying to keep, we're just trying to keep communications open between there. The opposite is, if you're not going to get enough dollars to do this, which that's where we're at right now, because you can't operate a business at a loss, so we have to cut other things along the way. And that's not what we want to do. We don't want to cut the community stuff out there. We don't want to come out when we've got it, like when they take the ambulance out to the games, or when we take the ambulance out for other things, for the accident, for the other stuff that we go to. It's a good community service, I feel. I mean, I live out of town, but I think it's good community service for there. You have to cut expenses if you don't have money coming in. I don't know any other way to do it, because otherwise we won't be there, so.
Do we have room in our budget to even change that?
Well, it depends on what you mean by room in the budget. I mean, what we were asked originally was a 5-year contract for $30,000 a year. So a 1-year contract at $30,000 a year is a new piece of information. That's not something that I had heard until Jeff had mentioned that tonight. So we have $60,000 in the hospital fund, which we were going to use for this, plus another $10,000 out of the general fund. So a total of $70,000 over 4 years. And so ultimately you could assign $30,000 from the hospital fund for next year if you did it as a 1 year, and it wouldn't affect, the general fund budget. But then you're kicking the can down the road then to the next year to have that discussion. Then you've got $30,000 left, and what do you do with that? And so, it's a question. Your decision is exactly like Jeff's decision, which is, if you're going to put more money into it, if it's $30,000 a year, then ultimately you're going to have to cut something else, just like Jeff, ambulance service. It's exactly the same discussion, which you could do. We can find places for you to find, that extra money if you wish to do it. That's certainly your choice. But so your choices are kind of, well, we do a 1-year deal for $30,000. We probably take that out of the hospital fund. Or, you talk about a longer term thing, and then we try to trim some other things in the budget, which we could do. I mean, that's kind of your choice.
Could we take, say, half of that out of the hospital budget and then budget half?
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to find
And then we
15,
shouldn't have to cut too much then.
we wouldn't have to cut, $15,000 is not a lot in the context of the budget, but it's a pretty tight budget. You know, we could probably find it this year. I'm not so worried about this coming year. It's going to be the future years where debt service gets a little harder in 23, 24, and 25. That's where the problems start to occur. But yeah, we can find $15,000 to reduce, sure.
Does this have to be decided within the next 2 weeks?
Well, I mean, you gotta budget it. I mean, you can always amend it. It doesn't have to be.
I was just gonna say, we've amended the budget for multiple other things versus rushing into
We can.
deciding this in
We
2
can.
weeks. Because no matter who the 2 people are that meet with the ambulance, you're still gonna have to come back and convince the other 5. And how are we gonna do that? I don't wanna rush
Yep. No,
a decision, because
Yep.
personally, I wanna look at those numbers better.
Right.
Because some of those numbers, I didn't exactly understand where they're all coming from. Some of them, when I looked at it, it looked like right around 15 to 17 would be about the right when it came to the population or whatever. So I'd want to dig into those numbers a little better to understand it. And then I need to just, my personal thing,
Mhm.
there better not be anybody in this community that does not think I support the ambulance.
Yep. No,
I'm the
and that,
director of nurses at the hospital.
Yes.
I understand the importance of an ambulance. So I support the ambulance.
right. And that's where we're at as a board too. We don't want to, we appreciate everything that the city council has done in the past. That's absolutely. We're not saying that.
But I just don't know
But our
where that
dollars, we got-
fine
yeah.
line is between a
Yep.
private entity's business
Yep.
and our responsibility to make sure you cash flow it.
Right.
Because the citizens' money is what we're talking.
Yep, and I agree with
We
that.
can't cash flow every private business because we want to keep a grocery
Correct.
store in town.
Yep.
Bruce could come and say, prices have gone up, everything,
Correct.
we need some reimbursement
Correct.
to
Our-
keep a grocery store.
Yep, and our flip side of that is if you have somebody else come in, I mean, and I don't know if it'd be North, I can't say that, I can't speak for them. That's my guess who would, because they've come in many other communities. I can guarantee it'll be worse. And I say worse because it's gonna cost you more money. And they're gonna go, we're bringing this in, this is a service, and they're gonna give you a bill for it.
But what are you going to do when you can't find EMTs?
So far, we've been doing well.
I mean, there's a
I
lot
get
of
it.
things that we can't control.
Nope, I get that.
Any more than you guys can.
Exactly. Yep, we've been very fortunate over the years. We have a very good bunch. We have EMTs, paramedics, nurses have helped out. It's
That's
fantastic.
going to be the challenge. It's
Yep.
a challenge for us at the hospital.
Exactly.
It's a challenge for any business right now to find people to work.
Exactly.
And then you're talking volunteer.
Basically, yeah,
Yeah.
correct. No, I get it.
Minimum- Not even minimum wage.
Correct.
minimum.
I volunteer to be on the board. I'm aware.
Yeah. And so, I mean, there's a lot
what it
of
is.
challenges here. I just feel it's too
Yep.
important of a decision because
Yep,
it
in the
is
next 2 weeks.
a very important
Yep.
part of our community.
Yep.
I don't want to rush into something in 2 weeks.
Can you give situations in which Tracy would decline transporting someone?
I would hope that Tracy Ambulance, when I'm on the board, would never ever decline somebody to do that.
Okay. All right.
That's where I'm at with it. I hope that never happens.
No.
But I hope that
See
2 years
someone
from now or
before.
3 years from now, we're not be defunct because we're out of business.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's my problem.
Well, we're lucky to have you.
When the ambulance been here for 50 years or whatever, 50 some years, almost 50, from 72 to now. That's where I'm at. I don't want to see something go belly up that's been very good. When we first started, we got that first ALS ambulance way back because all we had was transport vehicles before. And now we've got 3 rigs that can all go ALS. We're a very good ambulance service, so.
I would suggest, you're right, council member, that you don't have to, really don't have to. You can always amend the budget later. What you can't do, obviously, is change the tax levy at this point because that's already set. So if you took some money out of the general fund, we'd have to cut something, which we could talk about at a future date, and we could amend that. So you're right, we don't have to push this. I guess that's just me wanting to have the budget done. But yeah, you're right. You don't have to do that. So if you would like to take some more time and have, some continuing conversations, you could do that.
Well, I was just going to say, there's never any harm in keeping lines of communication.
Exactly, and that's what we're trying to do with our board, so.
But
And I know you
at
guys
the
are.
same time, I think the council, we have to be realistic here and realize that a decision that we make for spending this year, and considering more for the ambulance service, it has an impact for not just 2022, but 2023, 2024, on down the line. And perhaps that was, in retrospect, when the council acted 5 years ago to allocate $140,000 from that hospital fund, maybe it would have been helpful to have a little more discussion about.
Right, at that time, jumping to $28,000 a year from $140,000 was fantastic. It helped us upgrade our ambulance and do some other things on our
I
end.
want to clarify that,
So-
because my understanding from the history of that is that was for the purpose of a second ambulance at that time. It was
Correct.
not for operational support.
Correct.
So previously, the city council gave those numbers for operational support. That 5-year deal was for the purchase of an ambulance. This new request is for operational support. And so the question is the ambulance the same as the operational support? And that's a question you'll have to decide. And I do think that there's a lot of benefit to having some council members talk to them about it. But at the end of the day, it's your decision, and we'll help you, address the budgetary issue, whatever it is.
But the issue is that the city of Tracy no longer has that pot of $200,000 that can be used for health care purposes or wellness or whatever it was. We spent $140,000 of it. Now there's $60,000 left. Okay, and it's just an issue that we're going to have to grapple with. To what level can the city of Tracy help provide funding for the ambulance service?
Right.
And recognizing the importance of the ambulance service to the community, and we understand your financial squeezes too.
It just becomes a dilemma on our end of the world, just like you guys. I understand exactly. Similar thing.
So do we start with meeting with the ambulance, or do we start with, I don't care if it's an open meeting or not, a work session to dig into the figures that you've already put together?
Right.
However
you guys want to do it, I guess. That's up to you.
And then, from that work session, if we need to, we can ask for two volunteers. I mean, Ron's already volunteered to be one of them, to then meet. But I'm thinking we need to do our own due diligence here with the numbers we put
Right.
together.
Right.
That's my
That would
opinion.
have been my recommendation too, is I think that we should meet as together and then figure out where we want to go and direction we want to give those two people. Because otherwise it's going to go back and forth and back and forth.
That's my concern, it's just gonna go back and forth.
Well, that all being said, are someone from the ambulance gonna be there so that we can have open dialogue? Or just the council sitting there?
No, at a work session, it's gotta be, if it's for us, it's gotta be open to the public anyways.
Yeah, but I meant, could the ambulance come and?
Yeah,
Give us-
I would want them to come and hopefully
And that's
answer
fine.
questions.
Well, like I say, that would be the intention, I guess, if you want it. Whatever questions, we try to answer them. I mean, whatever.
I really can't see why we need two reps in if we're gonna do what you're talking about.
And maybe we wouldn't.
I mean,
Exactly.
What
Right,
can we
that's fine.
bring, what could we bring back that you guys are gonna talk about?
No, maybe we would, if
So,
we have a work
good
session.
idea is a work session, so we all, 7 of us, are on the same page with this.
That's fine.
When would you like to do a work session?
We're not on quite the tight timeline.
If you want to wait until after the first of the year, we can do that. I mean, it's up to you. But if you feel like you need to have it, we need to do it.
Like I said, from the ambulance's point of view, we are not going to quit January 1st and say, we're not doing that. I mean, I get that, but we'd like to have a contract in place or an idea, a really good idea of what's going on with the contract in place. We are not gonna refuse service to somebody, not as long as I sit on this board, but
I mean, if you're fine with waiting till after the holidays, because I think
I-
everyone's
exact-
schedule
everybody's
is
busy.
so full right now.
I know it.
That if we tried to say that first week in January, I mean, because I don't want to kick it
Nope, I get it.
too far down.
Yep.
Will that work for you, Jeff?
We'll make it work, whatever. Yep. We'll try to make it work in there.
What night works for people? I mean, we could shoot for the Monday night. We've got planning commission.
Well,
Usually, I don't know if we'll have
Well,
anything.
Probably not.
Is next Monday, planning commission
Monday.
doesn't meet next Monday. Is that a possibility for next Monday? Or,
Is that the first Monday of December or not? No, that's
29th.
not. 29th,
oh,
right.
I'm sorry. You're
Right.
thinking January.
Yeah, I'm thinking
Sorry.
January.
Oh, yeah, next Monday. I'm thinking January, because we're between Thanksgiving and Christmas. There's so much.
Yeah.
Eric, when's our first council meeting in January?
It'll be the 10th, so if you wanted to meet on the 3rd, you could certainly do that.
Well, how about if, okay, that's right next to the holiday, and I would rather schedule it, I plan to be in town all those days, but, you know, some people might be out of town with a vacation or something, and why not we have it on the 11th, shoot for the 11th? Because it'd be right after a council meeting, and then we know everyone's pretty much going to be in town. That's my suggestion, the 11th.
Really starting to string it out there, but, I think, where they would like to have something by the first of the year, now we're already going to the middle of the month, and we won't have anything
All right,
decided
if
yet.
you wanna have it on the third,
Let's talk
Well,
this through. Let's
should
not-
we go more the 5th or the 6th, more Wednesday or Thursday nights? I mean, Wednesday night's church
Are
night,
you talking in December or January?
January.
Okay.
Okay, you want to shoot for that first Thursday in January?
But I don't know if Wednesday would work for everybody. I mean, we know there's no sporting events on Wednesday, but is someone busy with church? You've
I've got fire.
got plans. You don't want to do it.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
You need to practice those now.
I do. Hey, what do you think of the Thursday then?
All right, should we do it Thursday, the 6th?
Okay.
That way at least maybe we can
Will
decide
it-
something at the council
Will it
meeting.
be here or the library?
We could do it wherever you'd like. If you'd like to do it in the library, I kind of like that a little better. I think there's a good discussion there, but it's up to you.
I think it's better, because otherwise we're sitting up here and the other people, the ambulance people would be down there, and I just think it gives the wrong dynamics. I'd rather be at the library
Sitting
where we're
across from
all
the table.
sitting in a
Yep.
circle.
Everybody's on the table.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we want Jeff to get any of us before we have this meeting?
I think we need to do our homework and go through the numbers that Krista gave us, that you gave
I was going to say, there was a packet before. I don't know where that's at or what happened with it. That's on your end.
That information was
So I'm
presented at the
assuming-
last council meeting.
Yeah,
by
I'm
the
assuming that
finance
information you guys would have and can pull
The-
up, so.
You want to start at 6 or 6:30?
What works for you, Jay? 6:30?
6,
It's-
earlier the better.
Let's go with 6. I'll just.
Okay.
Is that okay with you, Jeff, 6?
Yep, it's fine. We'll make it work.
So that's
That work for
6th,
you, Dave?
6th on the 6th,
There we should be.
library.
And then maybe we all just need to get a copy of that packet that the ambulance.
You already have it. It
That
was in the
all
last,
in
it was
the-
it's all in there.
Okay, I didn't know if there was any additional
No,
stuff.
no, we gave you everything that the ambulance service gave us. We did not withhold any information or massage it in any way.
Could you resend that information?
Yep, we can resend it. You betcha.
I'm not very knowledgeable with this iPad stuff, but sometimes I just lose it. I can't find it again. It's there
Okay.
one day, and the next time I look at it, it's gone.
Okay, no, thank you very much, unless you got any other questions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks,
Sixth,
Jeff.
6th on the 6th, so, okay. Thank you very much.
In the library.
In the library, yep, in the basement of the library, yep. Thank you very much.
Anybody else have anything for council communications? Okay, we'll move on to staff reports. Tamara, would you like to go?
October, we participated in the Shop Hop. November, we're going to participate on Saturday in the small Saturday event on the at the liquor store. We will have a tasting event. Also, we'll have a big sale that'll kick off on Friday or Saturday that week. Us, along with like 12 other businesses in town, are all collaborating together to put on events, so kind of supporting each other and advertising as groups. There will also be a retail trade group event. Well, not necessarily event, but December 11th there is event at the VMC. So the committee has decided to put together like a flyer and also to be over at the event to be able to help direct people, a flyer with a map on it, I should say, and to be able to direct people or in like an information booth so that they can ask questions and we can help direct them to different businesses in town. And our cooler is actually finally fixed. The equipment came in, yay. The specialty cooler went down. We ended up having to do a whole new compressor and both blowers. It's working awesome right now. Just want to remind people that we're going to have winter hours starting December 1st. Monday through Thursday, 11 to 8, Friday and Saturday, 11 to 9, and Sunday, 12 to 6. And as always, if anybody has any questions, please let me know.
Tim, when do you open now in the morning?
At 11. 11 Monday through Thursday, at 10 on Friday and Saturday. But Chris we did a report, or she did a report for us and showed like the sales versus the hours, and that's how we came up with the winter hours.
Well, going back a year or two, though, you were opening at 9 o'clock.
It was used to be from 10 to 10 every day.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm glad to see the 11 o'clock later opening, but...
And we did talk about in the summertime, because of being on the highway and the weekend, that we might go back to like later hours in the summer, especially on the weekend. But for now, with the winter and being so dark and stuff out.
Okay. Cam, what's happening on the goal of getting, improving our signage on front there?
So unfortunately, because of the cooler, our sign got pushed back until spring, or till January, so the school is actually we're talking with the school, and we've got the plan together, and the school will be the one that will, thanks to Carl and his crew, they'll be the ones that are constructing it, and because of the fall time for DeSmits, they couldn't fit us in anyways.
Oh, sure.
So it's in the works. It's a little bit slower than we would have liked to have been.
Okay. Do you have a target date for having it up there? Next May or next June? Or
I'm hoping by like springtime, I would think, but we're hoping that.
Okay, good. Also, last time we talked about the old liquor store facility and maybe selling some of those existing coolers. Is there any of those coolers that you could utilize at all in your present facility?
Well, the only cooler that's actually over there basically is like the walk-in cooler that we use.
Okay, so no.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, sorry, I got a frog. There's there's like one other little pop cooler over there that's actually not even ours. It belongs to Coca-Cola, but otherwise we've taken what we could from there and used it over with us. But
I'm sorry, did you say something that you're having some kind of any wine testing events or anything?
So we're having a wine and whiskey tasting on Saturday from 2 to 4.
Wine and whiskey. Is
Yeah,
that a
so
first
come
time
check us
event?
out.
Okay. It'll be good, trust me.
All right.
Our very own VPs will be serving
Yeah.
up.
And a small Saturday, or small town, or what do they call it? Small business Saturday. It's just kind of kicking off on that whole thing. And then we also, like in our ads, we also incorporated like the chamber, the Santa pictures, and the Eagles, or not the Eagles, the Lions soup supper. And so tried to make it like a community event, not just a, and we're going to have some hay rides. So.
And the details will be in the headlight this week then.
I don't know what, yeah, I think it's in the shopper, last week and in the shopper this week. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, so the retail trade committee is good. It's like, at least it's people collaborating together for the purpose of the downtown, or not just downtown, but the businesses in Tracy.
That's great. Good. There you go. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Dale, you want to go?
Sure. I'm actually not here for that. I did that last month.
Oh, sorry.
Update in the last month. Made it through harvest with very few calls. Had a rash of car accidents run there for a little bit. Last Monday we were actually able to get out and use the new trailer for the first time. Did a water rescue training in conjunction with the police department, or water rescue event training in conjunction with the police department out at Swift Lake. Able to utilize the water out there, and our cold water rescue suits and a bunch of the equipment that's now in the trailer, and how much nicer it is to not have to climb all the way to the top of a truck and crawl along the truck to grab a rope pail that weighs 60 pounds and carry it back down the truck. It's lay the trailer door down and everybody comes out carrying stuff. So great asset to the community in the area. Other than that, if you don't have any questions, I really don't have anything new.
Thank you for the continuing ed part of like the cold water thing, since we have the lakes all around here and everything else. Thank you.
Dale, I've read different news reports that over the Christmas holidays and the New Year holidays, New Year's Day holidays, that's statistically, that's one of the peak periods for household fires.
Correct.
Accidental things. Could you maybe just share with our audience some safety tips to keep in mind over the holidays and about smoke alarms and so forth?
We do fire prevention in October. You're in November. I'm fresh out of ideas. One of the largest causes of home fires is power strips, power cords. You know, you buy the small little power cord that has the 3-prong end, and then you put some cheaters in there and some more cheaters in there, and the cords get hot. And candles are a big thing. A lot of people that let candles burn all night long on Christmas, and them are some of the big ones. Turkey fryers, right around the Thanksgiving time. Do not put a frozen turkey in your warm turkey fryer. I don't know if anybody's ever seen that video. I believe we'll be sharing it here again probably tomorrow. Yeah, you take your turkey fryer, heat your turkey up, and go to drop your turkey in, and the fireball will go through the roof of your house garage. Don't use your turkey fryer inside, always use it outside. Turkey fryers were a large cause of a lot of garage fires there for quite a while. Word's gotten out now, it's getting better.
Good. Some good things to know and keep in mind.
Cords, cords get hot. Everybody here has probably burned some form of Christmas wrapping paper. It's very flammable. You start packing stuff under the trees, and you have all the cords to plug the tree in. It's just a matter of being smart, being safe.
Dale, at the American Legion meeting today, we were asked to nominate a police officer and a firefighter of the year. So I'll talk to you later about that.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff, did you want to go?
Well, I got no fire rescues, I got no turkeys burning, and I don't have wine and whiskey. But I hopefully you read my report and the number of things that we have going on. Just the only thing I want to talk about tonight was just I had a couple people that asked me about the attendance at the multipurpose center at the Eagles Club during the day, and it has gone up in September. We were waiting in September and October to see what the numbers were going to be, and now we're seeing some more consistent numbers of 6 and 12, and there's even been a couple of 20 attendance during a day, and then during the weekend, still pretty light at 19 and 20 and right around that area. But there's usually for sure 2 tables of cards going on, if not 3, and sometimes even 4 tables. So somebody had asked me about that, so I wanted to make sure that you had seen it in your report. So any questions on anything else that's in the report? You got anything for me? Like I said, no wine, no whiskey. Thank you.
You're so much more excited. Just a few highlights from my monthly report. In the beginning of November, we only had 2 shutoffs for delinquent accounts. One of those I know for sure paid in full and is back on. The other one I think did, but I'm not 100% sure. Usually I just overhear it when I'm working. Licensing. As far as driver's licenses go, our revenues are down closer to 2019 numbers now. The big piece of that is the Real ID and enhanced driver's license got moved to May of 2023 as a requirement now, so we're not seeing as many people coming in to renew at this point. So I would imagine probably towards the end of next year we'll see that tick back up when people start getting their new licenses. Motor vehicle revenues, same thing, kind of seeing a downward trend the last couple of months. We will see that start to increase now through February. I believe this week the notices went out for all non-motorized titled vehicles, so trailers, RVs, campers, things like that. So we've already seen an uptick today in people coming in to get their license renewals for their trailers. And the only other thing I have that wasn't on here is Peggy spent quite a bit of time going through all of the city-owned properties the last couple of weeks, doing a mock work comp audit, just checking for safety issues at all of our facilities. She put together a pretty thorough list for us, and has worked on kind of ranking everything by priority, things that are kind of quick wins that we can get done right now, and then things that each location can work on into next year to just make our buildings more safe and compliant. So, yeah, that's all I have.
Tell me what you said about the trailers.
Basically any non-motorized titled equipment, so trailers, RVs, they're all due in February for their title or their registration renewals. So the notices for those, I believe people had just started getting them this week. And so we really see an uptick in customers coming in for those during that time frame. I think they did, what did I hear Joshua say, like 60 of them today? So that's the most we've had in quite a while. And I'm pretty sure it'll be like that pretty much through February at this point.
First, does the new employee getting close to being fully trained, or there you go.
He's doing really well on the motor vehicle side of things. The state requires us to do a BCA background check to be able to process driver's licenses, and that takes up to 6 weeks. So we're waiting on that side of things, but he has the titles and tab renewals down really well, and is learning some of the other office things, building permits and some of that kind of stuff. So he's doing really good.
Now that you're up here, I think, is the office going to be open on Friday?
No.
No, it's closed.
Yes, the office will be closed Thursday and Friday for the holiday.
Okay, and then looking ahead to Christmas, are you open on the 24th, or is that?
We will be closed on the 24th for the Christmas holiday, and then the 31st as well. Both of those Fridays, the office will be closed.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, so everybody had a chance to read the report. Kind of short and sweet. Mostly sweeping. Say, as she mentioned, Peggy was out at her shop, so we had a few corrections that'll be ongoing for a while. But a lot of them have been there since before I've been here. But we'll get that worked through and start working on our other location over at the old state shop that we have over there. It'll be our next target. But I don't know. I guess I can answer any questions you have on the report first.
With regards to street sweeping, how many hours does it take to sweep all of our streets one time? That's quite a job, isn't it?
Simple answer is it depends.
How much is in the street?
It depends on the wind, you know, and how long, you know, it takes. You know, there's still leaves falling a little bit yet, and then, you know, sometimes the wind blows them all away, and sometimes it blows them all into town. So, as you can see, lately it blows from the south, and then it turns around and blows from the north, and maybe from the west one day. I suspect middle of next week we'll probably be putting it away for the year, just because of the cold, because there is water on board for dust control. So for that system, you don't want it to freeze. So typically it gets, you know, if it's below 30, it's fine if you keep water flowing through it. But you get into the upper 20s or below that, and it starts freezing up. You start breaking things. So that's usually when either the streets are cleaned or it's too cold to run it. It's kind of our stopping point. But the way it looks next week, you're supposed to be back in the 40s, a few days, upper 30s. So say unless we get all the leaves, which usually doesn't happen before it freezes. We've been snowed on before. We've been rained out. Kind of just depends on the year, but it's been pretty dry this year. So.
Have people generally been following the rules with the leaf disposal this year?
It's been good. Found a recycle bin out there last week, but for the most part it was pretty clean. Last week I haven't looked out there yet today, but I know the guys are out there on Friday pushing it up and they didn't see anything. So, and we finally got it to burn. Everything's plowed under for the most part around there, so we had a little bit of wet weather, so we were able to get that burnt. So with the dry weather all summer, it's been tough. So, but that'll make some space out there.
Are the streets going, or the road going out there? Is that on our long-term street maintenance repair project? Yeah. Or what's that list? I'm struggling for the right word.
It's a street maintenance.
I'm not
plan.
serious, but it's sometimes it's kind of
we put some
out there.
We periodically will put some concrete millings out there. We'll put some asphalt millings. Just kind of depends on how much use it gets and how wet it is. We put gravel on there. Say, crushed concrete works the best. We got plenty out there to get crushed, but it's a little more costly than gravel, but it holds a lot better. But
those candy canes you put down on the bump outs look really nice.
Yeah, that was the next thing I was going to discuss. I don't know if anyone has any questions on my report or what we're doing or not doing. Or okay. We will be doing some tree trimming too, likely this week if it don't get too windy. But there's some boulevard trees that are hanging low. We're going to go around and trim a few different areas around town. So.
On any particular streets or neighborhoods?
Kind of spotty all over the place. So we got a list from the bus companies, the ones they hit their antennas and stuff on, and there's some from the street sweeper. You know, if he's going along the curb and hits one, usually we'll go trim it up so it doesn't cause damage to the plows and garbage trucks and whatever else drives close to the curb. Usually the middle of the road's pretty safe, but
Well, just so homeowners know, sometimes they like to do their own trimming. How much feet of clearance should they have from
16
what's
feet's ideal.
How many feet?
About 16 feet out at the
16.
curb. Because what happens is when you get a like a rain event or heavy snow, those trees drop, and then most of our stuff will barely clear a 12-foot door, and then the garbage truck's a little bit taller, so that gives them a little extra space to work with. But so usually when we trim, we'll trim them up a ways, and then over the sidewalk's not quite as tall there, but we try to keep the tree proportional too. You don't want to one-side it, but.
Someone, a homeowner with a tree that extends over the sidewalk, as long as they have that tree branch so it's well above walking height, it's okay.
Yep. So it's just when you go walk down the sidewalk and you have to duck. Yeah. There's a few of them around town that.
I think there's more than a few.
Yeah. And some people like to trim their own, and some people trim their own and then they quit trimming them, and we come by and trim them. But
Okay. Good.
Any other questions?
Shane, can you talk about the parking during snow?
Yep, that's what I'm getting to now. As Ron noticed, we did mark the bump out, so we're a little easier on them this year.
Shane, could we have been a little more creative instead of putting those spikes out? Could we have done something else? I noticed a lot of the merchants have the evergreen baskets. Could we have done something there? I'll be honest with you, it looks terrible, terrible. They have those things sticking up around the bump outs. I know why you got them there.
Well, the snow's got to come off the broom.
Need to be more creative.
The snow has to go off the broom onto the road too to get picked up. So you start putting objects on the sidewalk, that kind of hinders the whole removing snow from the sidewalk onto the road to get it picked up and hauled out. So
How did you do this last year? You never had.
We
those.
didn't.
Run into them.
Yeah. So and then there's complaints about, damage of curb and gutter areas. So I know this was discussed earlier this spring about marking them. So,
See how it works.
Ron, a few months ago, I shared with Eric some pictures I took in downtown New Ulm about how they handled their bump outs. And I know, Eric,
It was in the pictures from last week, actually.
Yeah, you're doing some work on some long-term solutions, correct?
Yeah, one possibility is that you can put up these essentially, you can cap them, but they're essentially bollards, where kind of posts on the corners essentially, and so there'd be more of a permanent feature, I guess you could say, but ultimately it would certainly stick out above where the snow would generally be. And so if you wanted to get more decorative about those kinds of things and make them more permanent, you can do that. There's a cost of doing that. We've talked about the different kinds of things you might do in a downtown area, whether they be benches or planters and trash cans and all of those kinds of things you see in other places. And so you could do that kind of thing on the corner like they have in New Ulm. We don't have that this year, obviously, because we're not prepared for that. So there's probably better long-term solutions, but we certainly didn't want to beat up the concrete this year.
Yeah, I think in the future we will have a good solution that looks nice and yet serves.
We talk about beautification downtown.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I agree, council member. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. It comes down to a budgetary issue at the end of the day. These kinds of things cost money, and so what we would really like to do is have kind of a full plan for what that looks like before we actually, because there's a cost to that, and so we'd want to bring it to you as a choice for a budget. If you wanted to put a lot of extra money into downtown for beautification, then this is what it would cost, that kind of thing.
Sure.
We're not quite there yet, but conceptually, I agree with you 100%.
Okay, so I just want to kind of touch based on the high points of the snow plowing policy, just so everybody's kind of, obviously we had one little, I don't know if I call it rain or snow or a mixture of thereof of both. Wasn't much to do as far as plowing goes, but we did end up salting during that last week. So 2 inches or less, generally we don't plow, do a full snow plowing event. More or less it's just a little bit of cleanup during the day type thing. 2 to 6 inches, we'll be out, we'll do the entire route once in every 24 hours as needed, depending on how the storm progresses. 6 inches or more, generally we kind of go out and then we start over in those cases, because we can't let all that snow fall and be able to push it from there. So we got to take it in little bits at a time. So we don't see a lot over 6 inches, but it's happened. Notification of the public. The Tracy Police Department will announce by 6 p.m. on the evening prior to the snow removal event. In some cases, it doesn't start snowing until after midnight, and if it snows hard enough, we might start at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning if there's enough to start moving. Those are the times that get tricky as far as getting the notice by 6 p.m. because sometimes we'll put the notice out and then we don't plow at all because there's nothing to plow, because they said we're going to get 4 or 8 inches and it all went north or south. But we'll do our due diligence on getting that out, if we really think that's going to happen. And then you can find that on the local radio station, which is marshallradio.net. Nixle, the PD puts out Nixle alerts. If you're not a part of Nixle, it's free to sign up. Just get a hold of someone from the PD or Jason. He'll get you signed up on that. That's a text message to your phone. And then Facebook's another thing that we do put the notices out on. So any vehicles parked on the street after midnight following notification shall be ticketed for impeding snow removal operations. So whether we've been there or not, if it's on there, if they declare a snow emergency by 6 p.m., they'll be out ticketing at midnight. So as far as where we plow, when we plow, I guess in what order, we always do emergency routes first. Your hospitals, fire hall, ambulance, kind of those areas where they're critical to get through for emergency. Then we'll go on to the second priority. It's usually schools, commercial, businesses. The third priority are the lower volume residential streets, and then fourth priority is usually the parking lots and alleys. But some of these are done simultaneously because there's different equipment, so we don't necessarily wait and do this in that exact order, but that's how, as far as the emergency routes are always going to be first thing cleared out, and then they'll go down from there. But just a matter of what piece of equipment is where. So just a reminder, trash cans need to go behind the curb, not onto the street. That hinders plowing. I know this was brought up earlier about them being not just plowing, but it's street sweeping, it's just having cans in the road in general. They're supposed to be behind the curb, right up to the curb, but not onto the roadway. I think that's...
Shane, excuse me, Shane, we don't currently have an ordinance in place, or do we, that specifically prohibits the garbage can from sitting in the street? Or do we? No.
It depends on how you read it. It says that you have to have your can out at a certain time. It does not say you have to have it in at a certain time. So it's poorly worded. And so ultimately, The way I read it literally, no, we do not have an ordinance that says that. It's implied, but it's not directly in there, no.
Does it have a location that it's not?
Yeah, it
on
says
the road?
that you have to have it out on the street on the day of collection.
On the street?
What does it say, streets or it says in front of gosh, I'm sorry, council member, I don't remember if it says driveway or street or sidewalk. I don't recall that detail of it. When I was reading it, I was only thinking about the time as opposed to the
Almost like it says curbside, but I'm not.
It might say curbside, yes. I apologize. I don't have that information right in front of me, but I'll look it up after the meeting.
Well, Shane, do you think that it would be helpful if we had something in place that had some teeth in it, so that if people repeatedly put their stuff and it impedes plowing, that the police can issue them a ticket, same as a car?
It's up to you.
I said, do you think that it would help?
As long as it can be enforced, it would help. In our case, if they do put it on the road and the plow ends up nicking it, and you have garbage in it, goes all over the yard.
Everybody's yard.
It's on the homeowner to clean it up because it was on the street. So just something you want to be mindful for. It's just best to put it behind the curb, because some of these snowfalls, the plow may not hit it, but the 5 feet of snow that you're pushing in a drift or whatever else could hit it.
And it always has to snow on Tuesday night too, so.
Yeah, and you can't see anything in the rearview mirror on a snowplow. That's where all the snow goes, and usually the wind's blowing 35 miles an hour. So it's just best all around, all year long, keep it behind the curb. So.
And the other issue we have is, this is county, the garbage is picked up at 4 in the morning, 3:34 in the morning, and the recycle is picked up at anywhere from 5 to 5:30. So it's an issue.
Yep, usually the county comes out at 4.
Especially the recycling, because that blows all over.
You think it's even picked up by 5:30 in the morning?
I was saying,
Ours is 5:30.
They probably heard about your
garbage
complaint.
is at 4 a.m.
Have they gotten
morning.
better?
4 a.m. in the morning, it's garbage. And it used to be both of them picked up at 4 a.m. in the morning. But now it's 4 a.m. and 5:30 p.m.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You're making 2 trips to the curb.
Yeah,
That is correct. That is a county service, and that is correct. They come at different times. Yeah. The short answer is that there are a lot of provisions in the code that could be fixed. This is one example of them. You're going to hear about another example later tonight. Shane and I have spent a lot of time going through section 6 of the code, which is all about kind of our water and sewer and things like that. And so there's some contradictions within the code. It's just one of those things that gets cobbled together a little piece over time, and then eventually, it doesn't work anymore. So is it beneficial to have things in the code that give us tools to address problems like that? Yes. As Shane kind of alluded, the big issue is what we can and cannot enforce at the end of the day. And so, the problem is if you can't enforce it regularly and consistently, someone will say, well, you're picking on me. You just, gave me a ticket, but my neighbor down the street, well, his was out there, and so you're not giving him a ticket. And so we've got to be able to enforce it consistently, otherwise it just looks arbitrary, And so I think that, we are planning on bringing back additional code amendments. We've already kind of done that some this year, but it's just something for you to keep in mind when we have this discussion of what we can enforce and what we can do. From my perspective, it doesn't make sense to have things on the books that we can't really do anything about.
Well, it'd just be nice if some of the residents would just be respectful of what it looks like, for one thing.
It would be.
Your neighbors and the city, and in the summer and in the winter.
Right. I just wish I could keep from running into my garbage can in the garage and denting my car. If we could put that on the books, that would be great. Those garbage cans are all over the place. But seriously, I think that I think that you're right. People should just do the right thing. You know, put them away.
That's like anything. You're gonna have followers and you're gonna have other ones that don't. It's human nature, so.
And that's why we have the laws and the ordinances. They're there for a reason, so we need to, as Seth said, put some teeth in it.
Any other questions?
Is there any way we could talk to the county to see if they could be a little bit more?
We have. I have.
I mean, are we last on their route? Do we need to be the squeaky wheel so that we're not at 5 p.m. getting our recyclables picked up?
We have been the squeaky wheel, and I've talked to the head of environmental services in Lyon County, and I didn't know the mayor had too, but that's not surprising. And I've had multiple complaints of people. Shane has talked to them too, and we've talked to the person that's doing dispatch, and I know there were some complaints about some people not even getting their recycling picked up at all. And there are some routing issues, and we have been the squeaky wheel, you know, and we've gotten to there's always that balance between you don't want to become so squeaky that they think you're the problem child and then they deliberately ignore you. And I worry about us getting over that edge a little bit, but I promise you we've made phone calls.
Well, the truth is it's an expensive service for Lyon County, and we just might be fortunate that we can continue at having it every other week.
Yeah, the answer is that this what they will tell you is that, you know, this is what it is, you know, and they did change their providers, but they did so because it was low bid, which you're required to do, and so, you know, from their perspective, that's how they ended up with that contract. So that's directly from one of the commissioners' mouths. We will stay on them, though.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Shane.
Mayor, I don't have a lot other than what's on this report. I do want to call out a couple of things. One is that, as one council member already alluded to, we're currently seeking comments on the on Central Park and what you might like to see in Central Park for the Central Park master plan that's happening. There's a link on the homepage of our website to a survey that anyone in the city could take if they wanted to give us feedback on that, and that'll go to the consultant as they start to build this out. And so I wanted to make sure I called that out as well. The second thing is that it's just kind of an interesting piece of good news, but the League of Minnesota Cities is doing an article on the city of Tracy for their publication, and it's about our comprehensive plan efforts and our efforts to kind of grow the city and you know, do some things, you know, differently moving forward. And I don't have an exact publication date, but it'll be relatively soon because I know the author, the journalist, was working on it, and so. And actually, you know, kudos to the Headlight Herald, because I asked him, I said, well, how'd you hear about this? And apparently he saw some information in the Headlight Herald website that kind of led us to talk to us. And so, you know, when you have lots of good things that are happening and the press is reporting about it, then people start to pick it up. And so somebody's noticing.
Good. Good.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Eric, a question for you. In Washington, they've signed this big infrastructure bill. Have you gotten any sense for how that might affect Tracy for our roads and sewers?
That's $1 million question. I've asked a couple of people that question. So I talked to some folks at SRDC, and I talked to our planner, Rosemary Bruce White, who's doing our comprehensive plan. And, you know, the short answer is that nobody seems to know at this point. You know, our feeling is that the states are going to get some money and that it's going to trickle down somehow, but we don't really know. Shane and I have discussed this a little bit, and we do not know yet at this point. I would guess, if I were to speculate on it, is that, you know, the way that these transportation infrastructure projects work is that there's always things that are in the pipeline, and so what they'll end up doing is accelerating projects that already have engineering and plans on the ground. And then that'll just mean that some things get done quicker as opposed to, something that wasn't going to get done. And then they have large lists of other projects that that maybe didn't make the cut, and maybe they'll make the cut, because they have more money, something like that. But we don't know yet. We're going to get, the state's going to get something like $5 billion, something like that. I mean, it's a big pot of money.
Well, we do have plans in place for decommissioning ponds.
Yeah.
We'd only need, only $2 million?
We're getting some money on that already, actually, from the state. What we could do, and that's something that might happen. They might take some money that, because we're already getting, it's PFA money, or is it WIF money, Shane, that's going into the ponds?
PFA and WIF is the same thing.
Okay, so we're getting state money for that now, and so maybe they give us more, I suppose. That's possible.
Okay.
But from the standpoint that we have projects that are on the books and are in engineering, and some that are already engineered, that's probably the best chance for us to get something. But we don't know at this point.
Okay.
We've asked around, but when I know something, I'll let you know.
Yeah, okay, well, that's great.
That's a good question.
You're on top of it.
Well, we're asking good questions. I don't know if we're on top of it. Nobody really knows yet.
Okay, good.
That's all I have, Mayor. Unless there are any questions.
Okay, we'll move on to new business.
So the first item deserves a little bit of setup. There's a few people here to talk about this item tonight. Normally, this is kind of a routine item. Every year we bring to you delinquent bills, whether they be water bills or mowing or whatever they happen to be, people that don't pay. It gets certified to their property taxes, and then we collect it, in the next year on their property taxes. And that's normally what happens. Well, we started getting some phone calls last week from some folks, and I got some more phone calls today about, what is going on this year, because it seems a little bit different. So I had some conversations with Krista and some conversations with Diane, and then I started looking at the city code a little bit related to this issue. And what we found out was that we have a situation, and this is we had 23 properties that we had originally brought to you. 14 of them have kind of a special case. So the special case is essentially there was somebody that previously had racked up a water bill, whether they be a tenant or a previous owner, did not pay that water bill. There is now a new owner or someone essentially not responsible to that property, and these assessments essentially are going to ding the new owner for the previous owner or the previous tenant's water bill. And this happens sometimes, but it's more prevalent this year for a couple reasons. Number one, COVID did not allow us, we had rules from the federal government that did not allow us to do shutoffs for people non-payment of water bill. So we have one property in particular where they rented a property for 3 or 4 months, did not pay a single bill in that 3 or 4 months, moved out. We had a $200 deposit, but the bill was much larger than that. And we couldn't shut them off and couldn't enforce the payment because we weren't allowed to. The federal government wasn't allowing us to do that. And then they move on. And then somebody else comes along, and all of a sudden they say, well, what the heck, I get this notice for this bill, and it's not even mine, which is a legitimate concern, right? So there are 14 of these 23 that are like this, and it's much more than it is normally this year because of that. And the second thing that I want to tell you about this, and I know that you're going to want to listen to some of the people that are here to talk about this tonight. The second problem with this is that I looked at the city code, section 6.14, I think that's right, of the code, says that you can certify, if someone doesn't pay their water bill, you can put it on the property taxes for somebody if they receive notice of that, which we gave them, and they had been given a bill Well, the problem is with many of these cases, in all these cases, the bill actually went to the previous tenant or the previous owner. So these people now get this tax notice of tax assessment from us, but had never received notice of a bill. And so we're not even sure, based on section 6.14 of the code, if we can legitimately assess these because these people never got a bill in the first place. And it's, like I said, this really weird and unique situation. We think there's a couple of, ways that we might be able to fix this moving into the future. One is that we think we should be charging a deposit for, right now we charge a $200 deposit if you're a renter, but we do not if you're an owner. But owners change hands too, and you end up with this situation where the water bill isn't billed yet, and so we think you should be charging a deposit for everybody. Then we can collect that later. We think some of this isn't going to be a problem moving into the future because we can do shutoffs now again because of COVID, so we're in this weird situation. And so what we have in front of you, we have the original resolution in your packet is all 23 of these properties, including all of these situations where these have these previous bills from previous owners, previous tenants. And then I asked the staff to put together a resolution that excluded those. And we can come back. This has literally just happened this afternoon, so I don't have a specific plan for how we would collect this money. It's about $20,000 worth, just so you know. It's a considerable sum. But we know that we could assess them again next year, or we could find some other way to collect them, or we could forgive them, or we could come back with a plan later to deal with it. But ultimately, that's what the situation is that we're in at this point, and it's a bit unusual because of this situation where we couldn't shut anybody off. And with that, Mayor, I know, and I don't know if Krista, if you have anything to add, or if that was a decent summary of where we're at on this. And so we have a couple of folks here, and they can talk about their specific situation if you'd like to hear from the public too as well. But Mayor, go ahead.
I do want to hear that, but I have a
Okay.
couple questions.
Yeah.
First of all, so the previous owner and the previous tenants, did they get billed for it?
Yes, and so it's either or both, and so it might be a previous tenant, and now you're billing the owner when it was the tenant was due it, and it could be an owner that they sold the house to in between, and they didn't pay their bill, and now the new owner, and so it's both, and yes, the previous tenants and previous owners would have received that bill, yes, but the code, section 6.4, is specific. It says the same person who received the tax assessment has to have received that bill. It's not that we sent a bill, it has to go to that person who received the notice on the tax assessment. And so it's actually a little, I see where you're going with that, but the language was kind of specific, the way that it was written.
So Erie, the owner of a rental property, who's responsible for that? The renter or the owner?
That's a question of the arrangement between the owner and the renter. You know, it's according to the terms of their lease or their rental agreement or whatever it is.
Although, if the tenant does not pay for it, the owner
should go back to the owner.
It does go back to the owner.
Right.
Okay.
And keep in mind, we've got two different situations here. We've got that situation with tenants and owners, and then we've got situations where you've got owners and owners, which are different, obviously different conceptually. And then also, I want you to keep in mind that you've got the actual bill, and in some of these cases, you also have these penalties on top of that as well. And the penalties can be, a sizable portion of it, as well. And so some of these bills are, like $1,000, $1,500, kind of thing, because they've racked up like $300, $400, $500 worth of interest and penalties and failure to pay and things like that. And so this is kind of this is the situation as you see it. We wanted to make sure that you were aware of the entire situation, and like I said, this is new. We kind of just figured this out, that this was a bigger problem, really this afternoon, and we wanted to make sure we gave you options, so that if you wanted to do something different rather than just kind of assessing everybody. You are well within your legal rights to just do the assessment. That you can do within your legal rights as a city. It's a question of how you feel about the situation and what you want to do.
And another question.
Yes.
So if it wasn't COVID, how many bills go out before you actually would go shut their water off?
So it would be 60 days, right?
Basically 2 bills.
The 2 bills. Yep, that's correct. And in this case, you could have, it would be anybody from January, if it happened in January, it could be January all the way to, September, basically, at this point, because you could have 8-9 months worth of bills, theoretically, in this case, that they wouldn't have had to pay, because I think it was in September when we are able to then start doing kind of the disconnects, which we weren't able to do previously. So it's a larger number, but we would have caught it earlier is what I'm getting at, and then we wouldn't have turned them back on again if they hadn't paid, and so they never would have gotten to this degree.
So if the government mandated you couldn't turn them off during COVID, can they pay us then, since they're the ones that said?
The short answer is yes, actually, council member. I know that you say that in jest, but I'll give you a serious answer. The serious answer is that we got money from COVID relief under ARPA, and essentially they gave us money that we could theoretically use, to address this particular issue. We had planned on using it for some other things, but yeah, theoretically they have or did or could. Yes.
But if I'm I got lost a little bit with you explaining everything.
It's complicated.
Say I owned a building.
Yep.
And my tenant racked up a water bill.
Yep.
Then I sold the building to Shane.
Yep.
Then that water bill automatically goes to him?
When you say him, meaning
Shane, the one I sold it to.
The one you sold it to?
Yeah.
The assessment would, yes, not the water bill. So Shane wouldn't have known about the water bill. The tenant would have. And then Shane gets a letter from us saying we're going to assess you for the value of that water bill that you didn't know about.
And there's nothing, I don't mean to pick on you, Shane. I'm just using your name. There's nothing Shane could do about it then other than have to pay the bill.
That's correct in this case, and this is the dilemma, right? Because at the end of the day, somebody has to pay the bill or has to be forgiven, and how do you weigh all that out? What's different this year is this issue of COVID has made it much worse than it was before.
Do they not have to know that before you sell one property to the next property? Is that not something that's...
That's a good question. Our real estate agent is shaking his head no. The short answer is that they try to do that kind of due diligence, and they'll call on those kinds of things, and sometimes they'll even call us, but they don't always call us. And it's also the way that the system is set out, because different people have different bills, so that you might have an address and then a name associated with it. So you look at that and you're like, oh no, well there's nothing on that, but look, could have been a previous person, and you wouldn't immediately be able to tell that from the system. So we could say even so that yes, it's clear, not knowing that it's not clear, not knowing that there was a previous situation. And so they're supposed to, but that's imperfect. That's an imperfect system. It's.
The other piece.
Go ahead. Come on up, Krista.
Is they'll call us before closing, and then so the current owner, when they close, that's when the water will switch hands. The bill will switch hands. We don't final bill that till after closing. So then there's that gap also until they get the final bill. So even if the realtor, the title company did call us and say, as of this date, is there a balance? Well, technically no, because we haven't final billed them yet.
And that's one of the reasons why we want to charge a $200 deposit for owners as well as renters, because then we could take that and then we could refund it back to those people. Because if you close on December 1st, but we don't even read your meter until December 1st, and then we don't bill you to the middle of December, you're already closed and it's switched over, and then there's a whole month's worth of bill. Even if you're current, there's a whole month's worth of bill in there that, some people just ignore.
Well, it's a bitter pill for anyone, a property owner, to be stiffed with someone else's utility bill.
That's right.
But it kind of comes back to buyer beware, proper landlord beware. You know, you've got to do due diligence for these utility bills.
It's gotten better for renters or for landowners now that the city's like up, because
That
otherwise
helps.
it'd be like 2 months behind, and by the time the
Yeah.
tenant would leave, you. But there's a lot of landowners that have paid tenants' water bills.
So do you want to hear from the people that are here
Yes,
to
please.
talk about
I'm
this
sorry.
issue?
Hi, my name is Sue Moa. I appreciate everything that the council member, Mayor Coleman, all you guys do for Tracy here. And so I'm one of the few that got involved in this little situation here. So we bought our home back in March, and the utility bill was for February. And so I think the main concern, City admin, Eric here, did a really outstanding job of explaining the situation. And so I'm aware of everything that's happening and stuff like that. I think the main issue here is, I understand with assessment, if there's like a, bill that's out there, ours were, the utility bill was like 200 something. The main concern for myself and my wife is we weren't notified. We had no idea that there was like an outstanding bill on it. And then by the time we received it, there was like a $50 charge per month added on top of the utility bill. And so by the time we received that certified mail letting us know that there's a utility, late fee on it, it was already up to like $400 something. And right now, I believe once it gets assessed, it's going to be like $513 plus the 8% whatever charge or whatever. And so I think as a new homeowner, like Councilman Smith said, this stuff that sometimes it just happens. But then the main concern here is, I understand with COVID and how it's affected the way how you guys run the business here of running Tracy. I don't know if there's any other people here that are going through the same thing that my wife and I are going through. Oh, okay, yeah. And so, for myself, my biggest concern is what are we gonna do about that? That charge that was added on that the new homeowner had no idea that was out there. Because if I knew that was out there at $200, I'm not saying that it's too much and not too little, but it was something that at the time my wife and I, we could have, maybe pay it off, knowing that, this stuff like that happens when you buy a house. But the added additional charges per month on top of it and not knowing that there was a charge like that, that's the thing that kind of, you can say it takes you off a little bit. It makes you wonder, what's going on, what's happening. And so, and I look at the list of everybody else. I think we're kind of a little bit more fortunate that our previous homeowner did actually kind of pay his bill a little bit, and so it wasn't racked up as high as some of these other individuals that you see on the list where they're in the thousands. And so that's my concern. I love living here. Like you said, the Hmong people have been down here for 30 years. My family, we've been down here for 29 years, and this is home for me. And so we just finally bought our first home in Tracy here, and this is the last thing that you probably want to see happen, being like a homeowner, and to see something like this happen, especially during a time where it's going to be busy with the holidays and stuff like that. And the last thing that you want on top of hosting family and having a home, the first thing, one of the things that you want to do is host family gatherings and stuff like that and bring family over. But when you have something like this on your mind, in your heart, it takes away a lot of the joy and stuff like that. So that's our concern. So
my question to you is, say the water bill was $200. If the assessment charges would go away, would that I'm not saying it'll happen, but would that be workable for a homeowner? You or anybody else, I guess.
I can't speak on other people's behalf. On our behalf, like for $200 and stuff like that, that's something that, you know, like we can take care of, but then the other individuals that, you know, I don't know what situation they're going through, and my heart is for them too, because I can't, like you said, with COVID and stuff, we don't know what kind of situations these other individuals are in. You know, I look at our situation where we've been fortunate that with COVID and stuff, we've been able to maintain and have a job. And so with these individuals who couldn't pay their utilities, I don't know, like maybe something happened and they couldn't pay. And so for our situation, I can say on our behalf that if the assessment the $50 per month got taken away, if it's like down to $200 or whatever, where the original utility was at, then I think that's something more manageable for my wife and I to kind of handle. And it would definitely really help out. So that's something to consider too, but I think it's going to be a case-by-case kind of situation because, like I said, you look on the list, we're kind of fortunate that our previous owner didn't rack up a huge utility bills where we couldn't handle, but, you know, I can't speak on those who aren't here, so.
Well, it's something not only for you, but it's something maybe we need to think about with these bills. If we could collect the amount owed for the water or sewer or whatever, and in these special cases, if we could waive the assessment fees or penalty fees or whatever, maybe it'd be easier for everybody, not easier for the city, but at least we're getting paid for what's owed us. And the assessment stuff, if we could waive it, individual cases, waive it, maybe that's something we need to think about.
I think the normal thinking, I guess other people will probably say this, is why would I pay for someone else's utility that I wasn't there? You know? I just have to be a little bit more gracious, you know, forgiving and stuff like that. I know stuff happens and situations happen. I can forgive that. And, you know, being a homeowner, I understand that there's stuff that happens that's sometimes out of your control. And so we'll see if other people agree to, but then, you know, if someone else, you know, if a majority of them were here to kind of speak their mind, they would probably speak up and say, like, why should I be held accountable for utilities that I wasn't even living in the house for? You know, some situations, and I was talking to, you know, utility wasn't paid since August of 2020. And then they bought the house, and there's like 6 months or 7 months of unpaid utility bills. And so...
And you know, the sad thing is that the owner of the house knew about it, I would think, and they should have been a little more outright when, if I was you, I'd go back to the owner and say, this is not my bill.
Well,
but the other part of it is, I know, I mean, I think the delinquent thing we should do, but the other part of that is, it's like, at least you had, like, all the other people on there, and for some reason why they couldn't be here tonight, but if they were concerned about it, they should have came here.
Yeah.
So at least you had the you know, at least you had the right attitude to come here and talk to somebody about it.
Yeah, I just want to make it right. I just want to hear what the city council had to say about it too, because I love living here. I mean, I've been down here for so long, and you know, I don't want to get angry about it and be like, you know, so, what's going to stop me? I mean, if this was going on, then, you know, some people might be like, screw this. You know, I can just sell my house and not have to deal with the utility bill and then brush it off, kind of deal, you know. But then, you know, I'm not of that kind of nature, and that's not who I am. And well, like I said, this is home for me, and you know, I bought a house here, and I want to raise my kids to grow up here too, just as I grew up here. So,
and it's kind of sad because but what you just said, if we let everybody off of the whole thing, then they're gonna do exactly like what you just said.
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't have to pay my utility bill or whatever before I leave, and
they won't do anything about it.
It's too bad our system doesn't say the owner who sells to another owner, that bill that he created follows that individual, but it doesn't work that way. Is what I'm hearing here. You see what I'm saying?
That is correct, Councilmember, yes. I mean, it should work that way. You're 100% right.
And then we wouldn't have these issues.
Yeah.
So do we have any recourse to go after the previous
We would.
previous owner?
We could go to a regular collection procedure or, things like that. I mean, the reason why, there's two things going on here. One is that our code says that we're required to do it, and the language is shall. So if you don't pay your bill, it says we shall assess this. Now,
But assessed, they don't care if it's assessed because they don't own it.
I'm just saying, you're right about that. And so there's a flaw in the way that we do it. And so the question is, why do we do it? Well, it's because it's easiest, right? I mean, if I go to a regular collection procedure, it's going to take longer. We're only going to get a small fraction of it because that's, the collection agencies, they only pay pennies on the dollar for your collections, and ours are a small amount anyway. So we do it. We have done it historically because it's the easiest way to do it. I do think that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, which is why we should be charging deposits to people who own homes as well as rent homes. And I don't think you're going to see as big a problem moving forward, because when we do shutoffs, we then collect the money because they have to get their water turned back on, So to a certain extent, we could do a little bit, but this is kind of a one-off situation, I guess. And I know that the council might be concerned about, well, what's the precedent on this? I mean, if we give something to this person, what if they come in the next time and give it? And I think that's your answer to the question in terms of the precedent. If you wanted to do this, it really is a one-off COVID-related issue, or maybe you could decide that you wanted to do something with regard to the penalties. I don't know. That's up to you. But at the end of the day, it's kind of a special case.
Okay, so I want to understand the process. When you bought your new house.
Yes.
And he has set up utilities for in his name, is there any cross-reference for when you set it up for a new name, who that old account is, that we could right then and there, or after when you close the next month or whatever, that we could go after that old homeowner and either take it from their deposit if we put, deposits in place or whatever, so that the new homeowner isn't the one that's punished. Am I making sense?
Yes. So when a property is sold and the new homeowner takes over, they come in, they give us all of the paperwork that proves ownership. And then at that time, that's when we do the final reading on the old property and set up the new property. So then that's when the old owner would be billed at that time, and then they have 30 days to pay. It technically happens with our regular billing cycle, so if it happened on like the 15th of the month, the final bill wouldn't go out until the 8th of the following month, and then they have 30 days from there to pay. If we did the deposit thing, we would take that $200 deposit and apply it against their final bill. Ideally, most cases, they should have a credit, and then we would cut a check back for the remaining amount. If for some reason they don't have a credit, then we would send the final bill again on the 8th of the next month.
So how did
Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
How did this slip through the cracks so far, though, where it ended up being assessed to the property?
So we didn't have any money to hold back because there wasn't deposits yet at that time.
Yeah, so currently we don't take deposits for owners. It's only tenants that we take deposits on. So if it was an owner, we would final bill, and then they'd have 30 days to pay. Well, they just didn't pay their bill. We do some collection. We call and do reminders, things like that. But short of just calling every month and pestering them, there's really no incentive for them to pay us, because we can't shut the water off anymore. It's in a different name.
But in a non-COVID world, we would maybe end up, now, the previous owner would possibly get away with not paying
2 months. It would be, it would be a maximum of 2 months in a
As long as if we got a
non-COVID world.
deposit, hopefully that deposit would cover those 2 months that old owner is saying, haha, too bad, I'm not paying the bill.
Correct. Yep.
That's correct.
Did that answer your question? Kind of,
Well,
sort of?
yes and no. I don't buy and sell enough property to understand how that all works, but you'd think the title company that, or whatever's doing the work, would have had that all figured out. That's why you pay them to do that, isn't it? You pay somebody to check to see if all bills are paid. And
Yeah,
that's
there
when
is
they're
still that lag time between if the title company calls us to check on balance and when the property actually sells, and the new owners contact us to take over ownership. There is that lag time, so that final bill wouldn't be produced when the title company would call yet. It would happen after the title company contacted us. So we can catch some, if they had a month outstanding, we would catch that if the title company called. But then there's still that final bill that kind of is hanging out there in the middle.
I just can't believe that the city, so they do send the things to collection or they don't?
We only do tax assessments. We do not send things to collections. And that was the rationale for not charging a deposit for owners, is because, we can always assess them later, but you're not assessing the same people.
Yeah.
And so it was a bad policy. And so we're planning on changing that.
There was a loophole that was found.
There was a loophole. We found a loophole.
That's COVID.
And we closed the COVID exposed the loophole is what it amounts to. But so what we're trying to tell you is that ultimately we think we have some ways that we can deal with this moving forward, but we still kind of have this aftermath of this problem, where we're at right now, that this caused, that we did not have visibility on. And we just followed our normal procedure, and then all of a sudden all this stuff started popping up.
So should we hear from the other home?
Dale, did you want to talk?
I would love to.
I've got one question quick here. How do we let a mowing bill go to $1,604? How do we allow that?
What, 260 a time? Or so?
Yeah. So typically mowing per mow is about $260. So whatever 1,400 divided by 260 is, that's how many times we mowed that property. Yeah.
It's hefty.
So it's likely a vacant property is my guess, not knowing exactly what the property is, but I think, Shane, you guys have a handful of vacant properties that regularly have to be mowed.
And when it goes to the assessment, it's easy because there's boxes to check on the purchase agreement to see whether or not who's going to pay for that assessment.
We got to have people talking at the microphone.
Dave, did you have a question?
She answered it. Get Dale up here.
All right, Dale.
Yeah.
First, I'd like to say thank you for fixing the water bill problem for the 2 month behind and bringing it current. As a property manager, that makes it a lot easier to keep track of some of this. I believe my scenario is possibly slightly more unique than what we've talked about. Approximately 8 months ago, I purchased a number of properties in one sale. The number of the properties were all closed through a title company. The owner of the property was using some of them as rentals. The owner had signed an agreement with Lyon County Abstract, a conflict waiver, to go out and do a search on all the parcels for billing. Of the parcels, 2 of them popped up with past due water bills. One, I believe, was somewhere in the neighborhood of $800. The other one was somewhere in the neighborhood of $300. The past owner paid all of them. We closed on the properties. They called for the payoff amount, the past due amounts on the 7th. The water bill was printed on the 8th. We Chris and I talked about this. Again, I like your $200 idea, because when I came in on the 9th after we closed to transfer all the utilities for the properties into my name, I had to pay water bills on all of them because of the one day after, the day closing after. Which, whatever, I paid 1 month water bill. When I left here, I was told all the properties were paid in full. When I closed on all the properties, a title search was done. They had contacted the city. Again, 2 of the properties had past due water bills that had to be settled at closing by Lyon County Title and Abstract. One of the properties, there was some interest in a young family that was looking to move to Tracy. They really wanted to purchase it. They didn't want to rent it or buy a contract for deed. So sold it through a realtor, again through a title company. Young couple moves to town. Buys the house, moves to town, and a couple weeks ago, about a month ago, the realtor starts calling me because they got an assessment notice for $1,346.23. And this young couple is just besides himself because we went through a title company twice searching the property. So my first question is, why, when a title company calls and asks for a search on a property, as a city, wouldn't we want to give them any outstanding balance on that, because we could have had our money 7 months ago? I get the off by a day or 2 or 15 days in the current month billing. This one here, you know, the city could have had that $1,300 7 or 8 months ago. Super glad to hear that neither I nor the new owner got a bill, so as the code states, we technically can't be assessed. As Eric pointed out tonight, that's great news. But yeah, I guess I don't know if it was something that how to fix it in the future so that this doesn't happen. Again, we're making huge steps in the city as far as having a landlord-tenant relationship when it comes to utilities. The city of Tracy is the only utility that the landlord ultimately is responsible for because it gets assessed. I totally agree with the reason why it gets assessed, because it's guaranteed money for the city with no discount to a collection agency. But somewhere there's got to be a little give and take, or they're just not going to be landlords that want to have houses in town. Did I explain the situation well enough for everyone, or does anybody have any questions?
No, yeah, how did it get missed twice?
I don't know that answer.
This maybe is a question for you. Do bills follow the address or the person?
Address.
So then it really doesn't make any sense how that address wouldn't have had a bill that showed up.
Well, it follows the address and the person is the short answer. And so if you've got an outstanding bill on an old address with one name, John Smith, and Bob Jones buys it the second time around, the system assumes that there's a zero balance, and so they'll get a brand new bill, but they won't get John Smith's bill. And so it's not an either or, it's really both, if that makes sense. Part of the way, as I understand it, the way the system is built is that, because I asked Chris this question earlier today, I said, well, is the account number assigned to the person or is it assigned to the property? And the way that the system works is that there's a base account number, and then each person who had that property would be like a person 1, person 2, person 3, person 4. So when you go into the system and look up that person by name and that address, you will not see the other people's bills.
But can't you look up by just address?
Yes.
I'll let Kristen answer that question.
By address.
You can look up by address, and then that will show you everybody that's had a name on that account when you look it up by address.
And will it tell you what to do?
Yes, when you go into each account, it'll tell you.
So like when Dale came in and he had to pay some of them, but obviously not this one, what was done differently?
That is a question I don't know the answer to, but I definitely need to figure out, because that shouldn't have been missed, especially on this property. given that she had a past due balance from several months.
Yeah,
We should have
to get
caught that
to
one.
$1,300, that's more than.
There were multiple people on this one particular address, and so this person was like in the spring, February, March, April, kind of that time frame. And then there were other people in between. And I actually think Dale was in between, and Dale actually paid the water bill like he's supposed to.
Actually, there was someone there May and June, and then I took possession in June.
Right. And so my point is that we, procedurally, typically you would look at the last one, but you wouldn't go back to multiples. And so it would be nice if the system were able to tell us, exactly what the total amount is for the entire address on the screen somewhere, but it does not currently do that. So you would have to look at each individual person under the address all the way back to the beginning to make sure that there was no, outstanding bills. And so it's something that, but for COVID, would not have happened because we'd have already shut that water off and that person would have paid and we would not have had this situation. So we actually don't think moving forward that this is really a huge problem. It's more of an issue of the fact that it's more of an issue for the owner as opposed to the tenant relationship. But ultimately we've got to figure that out. But it's a loophole, as somebody said earlier in our system.
Okay, that being said, you had said we got COVID money for this stuff. Do we need to reach back into that COVID pocket and clean this up?
Yeah, we could potentially. We've got a little bit of money that's not allocated yet. Some of it has already been allocated, and we get another amount next year. And so theoretically, we could allocate some of that money for something like this, because forgiveness of water bills and things like that. I mean, that's the kind of thing that you can use this for. But I don't know what the number off the top of my head was in terms of what we had estimated. It's $15,000 or so $1,000 or something like that. Do you remember what it was after we did the revenue reduction and the equipment and the
That we had left over? 58,000. No, that's
no,
revenue,
that was the revenue reduction. And then we're getting like $220 or $30,000. I don't have an exact number on that, partially because we actually need to bid the SCADA system project, and we haven't done that yet, so I don't know exactly how much it's going to cost. But yeah, I think the short answer is potentially yes.
So that would help the folks that really were blindsided with an assessment that they had no clue was coming.
Yes.
That's just a Band-Aid. Meaning, if we got a loophole here, let's fix it.
I think we fix
it.
it.
We have to go to the $200 deposit. Let's get it done so we can.
Yeah, we will. We will. I mean, like I said, this is something I discovered this afternoon. So we're getting on it about as quickly as we can.
So that is one thing, but shouldn't when they call you from the title company, should you not go to the address and go back as far as you need to make sure you get to a zero balance?
That, yes, that's a procedural thing that we need to put into place to make sure that we're catching all of these balances, just to double check that we're not missing anything.
This $200 balance, I hear you, Ron, but you take the people that lived in town for 30 years, all of a sudden they got to write a $200 check to get that deposit there.
Be new customers.
No, it would just be new people.
Oh, just new. Okay.
Yeah. So when you sold your house, the new people that buy it would have to pay $200 deposit.
I misunderstood that.
Yeah. No, we wouldn't go back on everybody.
People that's lived here forever, and all of a sudden they got to throw $200.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I should have explained that better.
You probably did fine. I just didn't catch it.
I think it's twofold. I think we need to act on getting the 200 or whatever dollar amount deposit put in place.
Yeah.
And then we also need to fine tune the procedures that when people do call, that
it's caught.
We make sure we're catching everything.
Yeah,
Yep.
and we will. Ultimately, what will happen is that you adopt a fee schedule every year in December in 3 weeks, and so we'll end up bringing this fee schedule to you at that time, and then that'll be adopted as part of your normal, $200 will be part of your normal fee schedule. From a procedure standpoint, first of all, we can't guarantee that a title company is going to call or that anybody's going to call. And so I don't want you to think that just because something doesn't get caught, that means that it's necessarily something that's wrong with our procedure.
But I think we need to add a step in our procedure.
Absolutely. We agree with you 100% on that point. And we've already had that discussion today, as a matter of fact. The action before you ultimately is I don't like bringing problems to you without having some solutions, which is why I wanted to talk about some of these things. But ultimately, what your decision here tonight is about these properties and which ones you want to assess and how much. What you've got in front of you is two resolutions. The original one, which is basically you assess everything to everybody that was on the list, and that was the original one that was in your packet. There is another one that was handed out to you as well, that has these 14 properties with this unique situation taken off completely. What you don't have is one that includes the properties, all of the properties, but less the penalties. So you could, if you wanted to go there, then what I would do is adopt the original resolution with part of the motion being to eliminate the penalties, and then we can adjust the numbers in the resolution ultimately. But that's the decision you need to make. Which ones do you want to assess and which ones do you not want to assess?
And the ones that were handed out, the printed ones.
Yes.
Can we assess that, make a motion to assess that tonight?
Yes.
And then in 2 weeks, have you come back with researched the other 14, and then could we assess whatever, assess, reduce, or whatever then?
We are required by state law to have this to the county assessor by the 30th of November. So no is the short answer. We could do that next year, but we can't do that this year. Unfortunately, I wish I had a better answer for you than that.
But in any event, we're talking about these properties here, that doesn't set a precedence for down the road.
Well, I think you can make a decent argument that it doesn't, because if we change some procedures, add the deposit, and recognize it as this was a COVID-based situation, then you could theoretically, I think, say pretty safely that you're not creating a precedent. But that doesn't mean that people won't come back and claim it.
So this one that you printed out, these are not the ones that have COVID issues.
That's right. These are all kind of your normal run-of-the-mill ones. So
Have not had a change in ownership.
that's right. That's correct. And so there were 23 originally, and there are 14 that are not on this list. So this is clean. And then there are another 14 that are on the original list that we handed out to you that are in this unique situation where it's changed owners or changed renters or something like that. And so the question is really, what do you do about that other 14, I suppose, because this is pretty straightforward, this list.
I guess the mayor had mentioned at the beginning here that we've got, well, Dale and you folks had concerns. You brought them to us. I don't see any of these other people here. So I guess I'm having an issue with that. If they're not concerned about this, I don't know.
I'm going to be honest with you. I hear what you're saying, council member. You certainly well within your rights to forgive ones and assess others if you wish. I think that in the interest of consistency and fairness, and if you're going to not want to set a precedent and not seem arbitrary and capricious, that you be consistent in how you apply the standard. But it's certainly at your discretion.
I guess I agree with that. I think we need to try to be as even and fair for everybody. Just because they didn't make the trip down here tonight, can't really fault them.
So even some of these mowing, it's because the property changed hands? That they
Krista.
may come over to the paper one?
I thought it was just all utilities that got taken off.
Well, I mean, because the very first one.
Yeah, the very first one.
Is it?
Yeah, is not on there.
Shane, this mowing goes on and on, year after year after year, doesn't it? And these people are not paying for that, is what I'm seeing here.
That's not really a COVID-related issue.
Depends on what property.
So,
Right there. I guess my problem I got here, the first one's $1,600, and we're mowing and mowing and mowing. Can't blame it on COVID.
Right. I think in the cases of the mowing, you want to do the regular assessment. I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is going to be on the water bills. We agree with that.
But this one's not on there because the mowing, it's a change of ownership, so we're asking another
I think,
property owner to pay the mowing bill for a previous
yes,
property
that's
owner.
correct. So you can decide if you want to include that one or not as a different case.
So did we agree the first one should be on this list?
Well, it's
It's up to you. It is, what I asked them to do was to take,
an owner. We'd be asking owner,
The new owner to pay for the old owner's property that got mowed because they were never mowing it.
yeah.
you know,
And how did that not ever get put on their bill?
well, it's not on a bill at that point. We always assess the mowing every year like this on the
So
taxes.
This was just a one-year thing? This was this?
That's a one-year thing, yeah. But that's not COVID related. So if you wanna make it related to COVID, then you wouldn't want to include the mowing piece of it.
Because there's two more, the state of Minnesota, and then the names. There's three that are not on here.
Shane, these costs that you give to the city for mowing, does that cover the gas, the mower, it covers all this? Okay.
Yeah, what does that mean?
What you mean?
It says state of Minnesota and then it says the name.
Tax forfeit. That person went tax forfeit, so it's in the state's name. They keep it so that if they ever sell the property, they include those assessments
Then
in
won't we
the sale
want,
price.
won't we want them on this list?
Yes.
We definitely
On the
want
tax
them
forfeiture ones, yes. Yes. My suggestion to you, because I know that this is a lot, is that we take the original list that we gave you and include in the motion anything you want to eliminate in categories. So, and then we can write the resolution accordingly and have the mayor sign it. And I think your choices are water bills versus everything else. Do you just want to do the water bills? That's the first question. And the second question is, do you want to, and then the question is, do you want to forgive a portion of the entire bill or just the late fees, or at all? And so, and then you could make that as part of your motion off the original lists, and then we'll adjust the numbers accordingly, and then the mayor and I can sign it and send it to the county that certified for those amounts in those categories. So my first question would be to the council is, do you want to include the mowing ones as well, or just the water bill portions of it?
Included into the taxes.
Yes, yes. Do you want to include all of the mowing ones, or do you want to exclude any of the mowing ones? That's my first question.
You mean under this?
Yes,
right?
yes. Do you want to assess all the mowing ones?
Well, the only one that's a new person is the top one, correct?
I think so, yes.
So I think we could say that we want to include all the mowing except for where there was a change in property ownership.
Yes.
Because that would just cover that one.
You could, yes, yes.
And we want all the state of Minnesota ones.
Well, because that hasn't changed ownership.
Right, but I mean,
Right.
we want all of them, period.
Yep.
We want them onto the
Yep.
assess.
Yep, yep.
So it would be all the mowing
Yeah.
So is that the consensus then, is we want to, all the mowing except for the one that changed ownership?
Correct.
Okay? All right. What about the water bills?
How do we differentiate these versus the other ones?
I don't think you need to be specific in terms of the addresses. I think we can work it out based on the,
We could kind of say the same thing.
yes. And so the question
To be
is,
consistent, say the same thing,
Well-
that if they changed ownership,
what about, if they changed ownership, then if you wanted to do it that way, it's changed ownership, and then the two questions, is it just the late fees or is it the entire bill? That's the question that I would ask.
So how does that fit in if the new owner never received a bill?
In our code does say that they were supposed to have received a bill, but they never got it. And so they could make an argument, I think, that they shouldn't have to pay it no matter what. But this has been the procedure in the past. I mean, we've done this year after year after year, even with that provision in the code.
I think since we do have the COVID money and COVID caused this loophole to open up, we can try to shrink that loophole, close the loophole, but for this year, if we say that if the ownership of the property changed, that the new property owner should not be assessed. And then we put in place our stop gaps. That won't be part of the motion, but then we have to put in stop gaps.
Yeah, we'll put the stop gaps in
And we'll
place.
use the COVID money
Clean up.
to clean this up.
If you want to basically forgive every bill, or not assess every bill, it doesn't mean we have to forgive it. We could still try to go after the people,
Yes.
the previous people, but if you want to avoid assessing anybody with a change in ownership at all, then that's this resolution that we handed out.
Minus the mowing and that.
Minus the mowing.
So say that again. So that if
We want to assess say it this way. We want to assess the properties that did not change ownership.
okay, yes.
That might make it cleaner.
That's this list.
That's this list.
That's this list.
For the utility bills.
Yes.
That makes sense to
Yes.
me, I guess.
And then the same thing with the mowing, but that means we have to add in like four more parcels or four more accounts.
And you would want to add in also, there's the state of Minnesota ones as well that are on a tax forfeiture.
Yeah.
You'd want to add those into this
Yeah.
list as well.
Right.
Yes.
So there'd be like four more, I think.
So there'd be four more added. There'd be
Three, actually.
three state of Minnesota and one,
That one
what's this
first
one
one.
that's mowing?
That's nothing more than.
Oh, so it'd just be adding in three state of Minnesota ones, is that it then?
No, the very first
For the
one.
mowing, and then you have to add a,
That was a change of ownership, though.
So that one's not being
The very
counted.
first one was, correct?
Oh, it was a change of ownership.
and
Yeah.
the snow removal ones are being assessed.
Yes, the snow removal ones would be assessed. The only three that you'd want to add, I think, is the ones for mowing that are the state of Minnesota ones.
We have to add a state of Minnesota snow removal.
Which one is that one? Yes, we'd have to add the state of Minnesota snow removal too, and the state of Minnesota utility bill as well. So it would be those five. Yes.
So do you have it all right, Diane?
Yep, I have it right in front of me right
Clear
here.
as mud, huh, Diane?
I'll make the motion for that then.
Let
Did we
me
include everything?
let me make sure that, and let me just recap it before there's a second. So there's this sheet that we handed out to you earlier, which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 properties on it. Plus, we want to add the state of Minnesota tax forfeiture properties, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. And that would be what you would assess for this year.
Correct.
Okay.
Do we get this report just once a year, or when do we get it?
Well, that's a report that we generate, essentially. So yes, we do it once a year. The code actually specifies we have to do it in September. So yes, we do it once a year in September. September and into October.
Okay, so, do we have a second to the recap? First and,
I'd just soon have her read that back, so I got
Okay.
it.
Did you second it, George?
not yet.
No?
Who did?
Who did? Sorry, my ears are so plugged.
George wanted you to recoup that.
To recap it?
Yeah, recap that.
Just to make sure I got it clear.
You want me to read the properties out loud? That I can read them.
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, it's this list, this list,
This list.
plus the state of Minnesota's.
Okay. I got two lists here, so I was.
Well, do this. It's that list.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Diane.
You're
I thought
welcome,
it was
George.
utility bills though that were, didn't change ownership. That is this list.
That is
Yeah.
this list.
Yep.
Okay, all right, first and second, any further discussion?
Yes, I do not want to see these names again. If we're going to forgive them, I don't want to see them again,
I hear you.
because that's ridiculous.
But I do think we should try, don't you think we should still try to collect from the owner?
I think we should try to collect. We'll look at some other collection procedures for the people that are not being assessed. Yes, for the previous people that owe the
Even
money.
if it went to collections, a
Yes.
little something is better than nothing.
Yes, yes.
I'll get in my van, you just give me a Okay, roll call, please.
Shones
Aye.
and Teagues.
Aye.
Whitman.
Yes.
Tell.
Aye.
Landite.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Mayor Corman.
Yes.
So then for the next meeting, you'll bring forward a proposal to add in a deposit for.
Yeah, it'll be part of the fee schedule that you'll adopt for everybody else. Yes, yes. We'll just include that as the fee, as part of the fee schedule. Yes, and I think that makes sense.
And then you'll look at your workflow and that. Okay.
I appreciate your patience. That was a lot more than I expected it to be tonight, but we wanted to make sure we
That's
did.
gonna be a-
I know, I really wanted to make sure that it was, I wanted to make sure we did the right thing, because I thought it was going to be easy, and it ended up being a lot more complicated than we thought. The next item is fairly straightforward, Mayor. It's just selling the snow hauling truck that we just replaced, and so we want to sell that at auction.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2021-110 to declare the property no longer needed for public purpose and to sell it.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Teagues.
Aye.
Landite. Tell.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Shones.
Aye.
Whitman.
Yes.
Mayor Corman.
Aye.
This last item, which is something that I had some conversations with Seth about as he's working on the community foundation, as well as Matt. We were kind of reviewing state law with regard to what we can and cannot do as a city in terms of solicitation. And generally speaking, what the League of Minnesota Cities advises us is that if we're going to work to first of all, we have to have anything we do, any money we spend has to be for public purpose. And so that's really kind of the basic criterion anytime we're spending money. So we want to make sure that if we spend any money in the community foundation, which we think is a public purpose, that we are very clear that you're saying, yes, this is a public purpose. Yes, we want you to spend staff resources. Yes, you can spend, particularly front some money for like some mailings or something like that the foundation might want to do to raise money. This basically just cover us from a legal standpoint, and I had Matt review this earlier this week, and he's good with it too. This covers us from a legal standpoint, just in case anybody challenges why we're spending any time on this community foundation. And that's what this resolution is all about.
I'll Make a motion to approve resolution 2021-111, authorizing the solicitation of contributions and the use of city resources for the purpose of a community foundation.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion?
If I could just add a point here, I guess in talking with Eric about this, the issue came up first because I wanted Janine and I, who have been charged with raising money for the endowment for the future Tracy Foundation, we were thinking about mailing a letter, sending a letter out, and could we use the City of Tracy logo on the letter so that it looked a little more official than just something from Jim or Janine and Seth. So that's where this came from, and so I would like that for the permission to use the city logo on this letter that we're planning to send out. I appreciate the offer in the resolution of city funds to help with mailings out, but I'm not requesting that. If we put out a mailing before the foundation is formed, I will pay for that myself. So that's not the issue. Just kind of the official being able to. If I come in and ask Christopher, can you run a couple copies for me, or just small things like that, or and use of the logo. That's really all we're asking for. And if I have a letter printed up, I'll pay for it myself.
Essentially, that's what the resolution says. It basically says, so we can do things like we could put something on the website that says, here's how you donate, or, or I could, provide some staff support, for, whatever it is that people need. And the use of the logo is actually specifically called out in the resolution. Right. And so it does say in part of the resolution that any hard expenses like postage would be repaid. And so we could theoretically use our postage meter to send out some letters, and we have codes for that, so we could track, how much is being spent on the foundation, anticipating that the city then would get paid back when the foundation has made money or gotten donations in. And so it's a way for the city to kind of front some of the expenses a little bit and get reimbursed. But certainly that's not required, but it would be allowed in this particular case. And we would I think Krista's already set up a code for the copy machine and the postage meter to do that if you wanted to, but certainly not required. It should be the same, because it'd be full rate. It wouldn't be a pre-sort discount. But I know why Seth is saying these things. I mean, because it's important. We don't want people to think that we're using city resources for things other than the public's business. And I appreciate the kind of the strong ethical stance that he's taking here in terms of how we're going to do this. Our intent is that any money we spend, we would be paid back, and we will try not to spend money, but this allows us to promote it a little bit. And I do believe this is for public purpose. I really do.
I think it's a good deal.
Yeah.
And how is it going, Seth?
Yeah, if I could just, I'd ask to be on the agenda to give an update. This is a good point where I can do that. Just to go back a few weeks, Janine Vandendriesche and I were charged with the responsibility of raising some initial money, $25,000, so we could qualify for a match of $25,000 from the Southwest Initiative Foundation. And we have, as of this moment, we have $17,000 in checks. And we want to reach our $25,000 goal yet this year. So we're very happy with this community support that we've had to date. very, very pleased. And our next step is to have a meeting, and we have set the meeting for next Tuesday, which is November 30th at 6 p.m. in the lower level of the library. We've gotten permission from Eric to hold the meeting down in the library lower level. And this meeting its major purpose is to get people into the room who are interested in working on the foundation board. It doesn't mean that if you show up, you're going to be on the foundation board, but we want people who are interested in the foundation and in the possibly serving on the board. Once we have this meeting, we will be able to, and hopefully we'll have the $25,000 at that point or shortly thereafter. Then we'll be able to invite Jeff from the Southwest Initiative Foundation down to come and talk to these prospective board members and more fully explain the duties and responsibilities of a board member. And then once we get the $25,000 raised and we've got people in place willing to serve on a board, then we can take the final steps to establish this foundation. So I encourage anyone who's interested in serving on this board, wants to just wants to learn about it more, to show up for this meeting at 6 p.m. This is not a meeting of the community center work group, which was 7 council members and 5 appointees from the appointed by the council. We want to be sure that we're not violating open meeting laws. So it's not an official meeting of the work group, but anyone is invited to come. And Pear's been good enough to say that he'll put in a little an article in the paper about this November 30th meeting. So anyone who has any further questions, I sure encourage them to call me or Janine. Or Eric.
Are you and Janine running the meeting?
Pardon me?
Are you and Janine running the meeting next Tuesday? My question is, why would you not set up a meeting with, forget his name, from Southwest Initiative?
Because he will not. Yes, I would have preferred
all
that.
we needed was $5,000.
Okay, he changed what he said.
I got an email from Jeff. I asked him that question. I said, what's our next step? And he says, you need to decide who's on your board, and then I will come talk to you. That's the email that I got from him last week. Yeah. That's why we're kind of where we are right now with this.
Okay, I didn't know that.
No, that's okay. It's my fault. I should have explained that earlier.
Yeah. We're kind of in a gray area right now.
Yeah, we are in a gray area for sure.
So hopefully that
answers that question.
After this coming Tuesday.
Okay.
So now set the 17,000, that's going towards the 25,000. Have we raised the seed money, or is that in the 17,000?
We have $17,000 in checks to go into the endowment fund.
Okay. Have we raised the 5,000? We've raised that already?
Yeah.
Is that included in the
Well, we're going to have to. We need to raise $25,000
and 5,000, right?
to establish the foundation. No, just $25,000 went away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You had to show a good faith with that first 5,000 that you were going to be able to do it, to get the foundation started, and then finish up getting the rest of the 25,000.
Right. And that's what precipitated me emailing Jeff and say, hey, Jeff, we've got our 5,000. What do we need to do next? Oh, you have your meeting set up your board, and then when you have your board set, I'll come down and work with you guys. And he actually gave me some dates, depending on how quickly it gets going, and we could even yet have that meeting before the end of the year.
Yeah, good. But just so everybody out there listening knows, once we get to 25,000, they kick in 25, that starts, then we can start with the senior center or community center, whatever we're gonna call it. Then we can start raising money for that.
That's great.
Okay.
Correct.
So are you planning on selecting a board next Tuesday? Let's put it that way.
Well, I'm not selecting a board.
Then who's going to select the board?
My understanding was that we will get people interested, who are willing to put in the work, who are qualified to serve on the board. We get a core group, and then we invite Jeff down from the Southwest Initiative Foundation, and he will explain to us the details of how we elect the board.
Nobody, there is no election, there is no appointment, it's self-appointed. That's what this boils down to.
Okay.
So essentially, it's a little nebulous. I know that's not usually what people are used to, but you got to start somewhere.
Right.
So ultimately, I would envision the best case scenario would be that you have 7 to 11 people that night that say, yes, I want to serve. If you have more than that, then you'll have to discuss and negotiate about how you reduce that. If you have less than that, then you might have to go out and recruit more people. But if you have at least 7 people say, yeah, I'll be on the board, then we can move to the next step. Yeah.
But I would guess that there will be someone elected a chairman.
I think amongst the group, yes.
Yes, some kind of.
Yes. But I apologize. I wish it were more concrete and clear,
right.
But it's kind of not at this point.
Nope, that's all just interested.
Any other questions?
So do you want us to try to contact people too and send them your way, I would assume?
If you know of someone who you think would be a good board member, sure. It might be good to maybe just call me or Janine first and make sure that that we're not duplicating calls. but I just want to stress that it's kind of a two-pronged process. If I know of someone that I think would be a dynamite board member, yeah, I'll probably talk to them, but that doesn't mean I'm selecting the board. Anyone who's interested in this foundation should come to Tuesday's meeting.
And if you come to the meeting, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be on the board.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Mm-hmm. I just hope that we get a nice cross-section of the community and that people understand that this foundation board is going to be different than the community center work group that we've organized previously.
And this board is going to be a working board.
It's going to be a working board, that's correct.
It's like you expect some.
Yeah. Anything else?
Okay, so, out of all that, did we finish that resolution?
Yep.
We have to.
We get to vote.
Yep.
Roll call?
Koopman.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Landay.
Aye.
Tell.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Teagues.
Aye.
Mayor Corman.
Aye.
So motion to close the regular meeting? Is that what we need?
Mm-hmm.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I have all the time in the world.
Thanks, Pear.
Thank you.
Thank you.